You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk, or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your health care? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their health care. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your health care, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty Health Share and take back the control of your health care while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
Here's George Foreman with InventHelp.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-353-6490. That's 1-800-353-6490. Again, 1-800-353-6490.
At St. Jude, our family never sees a bill at all. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Generation Y Conservative Podcast. I'm glad that you could join us tonight. Well, listen, NFL ratings are in post-kneeling controversy. Up, obviously, right? Well, maybe not. But then again, maybe that's why Cam Newton thought his joke would go over easier in his press conference. Hey, this is actually great because you were actually here for this last one. You remember those clowns? The vigilante justice-bent social warriors that were protecting students by brandishing bats on campus and going around and serving out their own vigilante justice.
My favorite college, Evergreen State. Yes.
The Joker rejects.
Yeah.
Well, we have an update on their status, and that turns out not too good for them.
Oh, no.
Also, and I know you mentioned this before the podcast even started, a Walking Dead star reacts to Safe Space fans that are offended by his T-shirt on Instagram. Technology alert, Google is releasing some earbuds to compete against Apple's, and these things are sounding amazing. Have you heard anything about these?
No.
Oh, you're going to love it. It's
okay.
Awesome. Also, I address the idiocy of those out there criticizing the Trump administration for its response to the Puerto Rico crisis. And of course, we dive into our main topic tonight, the mass shooting in Vegas. The details, responses, and some facts that everyone against the Second Amendment seems to either be missing or deliberately omitting in their verbal diarrhea. We talk about all this and more tonight. This is the Generation Y Conservative Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to Generation Y Conservative Podcast, where the truth is greater than agenda. If you're watching right now, you may be watching the live stream on Facebook, in which case you can tune in on Thursday or Friday nights, depending on when I'm available, when my guests are available. Tonight I have Goody with me again.
Hello.
You've seen him on at least one podcast before. Were you part of the Nerdcast one time?
No, I missed the Nerdcast, but I did do
You would have been a good one on
review.
it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Spider-Man review, that was the other one. The Homecoming review. So he's back, and I'm ready to have him cracking up again. As a matter of fact, the views are going up on some of the videos involving you on YouTube. I know you personally like the Supreme Leader Big Bird skit at that point in time.
Yeah, that still gets me every now and then.
So, okay, so if you want to go to the Generation Y Conservative Facebook page, just search for the Generation Y Conservative on Facebook, hit like, go to the follow button, and you can actually get notifications so that you know when we go live on Thursday or Friday nights, because that time can vary. And really, it's just kind of a more behind-the-scenes look at the podcast as I record it, pre-editing stages for YouTube, which leads us into the YouTube channel. Head over to YouTube and search for the Generation Y Conservative, and you will find the channel there, where you'll not only find the podcast and also split-off segments that have been popular last week. Well, we'll get into last week, but 2 weeks ago, one of the video segments that's soaring right now, I always pick out things that I think are going to be interesting to people, and it's always the second or third one that I pick that is the one that takes off, right? So actually, 2 weeks ago, the segment that's been doing fantastic on YouTube is the Jim Carrey one.
Okay.
Where we were talking about his red carpet appearance in the Icon Awards and his seemingly losing it mentality on the carpet in the interview, and then we contrast that with a video from maybe a week or two before that of him talking about God and Christ and salvation and grace and everything to a group of ex-convicts and that are trying to save themselves essentially through Christ at this one organization. So. You get a sense of what actually may have been happening on that Icon Awards carpet.
Right.
But in regards to last week's podcast, I've mentioned within the last 2 weeks that YouTube has actually demonetized my channel, so I'm no longer making money on it, which is fine. I'll be honest with you, I think I was up to $5 anyway, because it takes forever to build up stuff, unless you have like thousands or millions of subscribers, which I'm building towards. That's the way it is in the beginning. But at the same time, YouTube and Google have been actively shutting down conservative voices. Anything that they disagree with, they are shutting down. You know who they just shut down, banned the video of, or
who
took it off? Mike Rowe.
Why?
Dirty
jobs, Mike Rowe?
Yeah, Mike Rowe. Yeah, he did a video for Prager University, and they wouldn't allow that to air on YouTube. So they just basically go after anyone that they disagree with. And he was just talking about instead of pursuing your passion, that I forget how he did it, but he explains why pursuing your passion is bad and that you should do this instead. And it was really well said, nothing offensive. But they know that he has leaned in certain directions lately, and they try to shut him down.
Yeah, I mean, you lean to the right and you get punished. That's just the way it is anymore.
Well, in regards to that, what actually happened with last week's podcast, in case you're new to the channel, Austin from Square Up or Line Up, someone that I've grown up with, was on the podcast, and we did a segment on the NFL controversy and my thoughts on that. And during that point in time, I had shown a clip from The Daily Show, which I completely disagree with in most other cases with Trevor Noah. I don't find him funny. I think what he says is stupid. It's always mean-spirited. And like Jon Stewart in the beginning of half of his career was able to make fun of
everything.
Everything. And then he got sour towards the end. And it was just absolute, like, just rail against the right. You know what I mean?
I think he was just bored at that point.
Craig Kilborn was the one before him, right?
Yeah.
Same. He was awesome all the way through, I think. I think it was a political change in the environment for everyone around the time of Stewart's transformation there. But I did show a clip from Trevor Noah's Daily Show in which he was interviewing Tomi Lahren, who I have my issues with because I think she's always angry and provides no solutions at all.
Agreed.
She's good to look at, so mute is fine. But so
you can't say that. Cam Newton.
Edit that out.
Yeah. 5,
4, 3, 2, 1. Anyway, he was interviewing Tomi Lahren, and so during this interview, he asked her 3 times, how is a black man supposed to protest in this environment?
Right.
If not the way that Colin Kaepernick is doing it, what would you suggest doing? And 3 times she avoided the subject because all this time she spent months upon months railing against Colin Kaepernick and never thought past what his end goal was and how he should actually do it. So she was completely unprepared when he asked a very simple question. How should he do it?
Right.
Didn't have an answer for it.
Nope.
So I showed the clip, and for once, I agreed with Trevor Noah. Sure. Well, that clip caught the attention of YouTube by their algorithms. It wasn't an actual person sitting there thinking like, oh, conservatives, blah, blah, blah. But they banned the video completely from YouTube because of a 15-second clip that I provided in there. Now, that being said, I filed a dispute because if you look under the Fair Use Act, you are allowed to use copyrighted material to comment on or opine or use in a parody way. Well, I am commentating on it and providing further details and my own opinion on his opinion, so it is perfectly fine. But that being said, a claim dispute could take the resolution time of 1 month. So Viacom, who is the parent company of The Daily Show and Comedy Central in the end, has to look at my dispute and rule in favor or against it, and that could take until November 3rd. So the video might not be up on YouTube until November 3rd, unfortunately, for the fans of Square Up or Line Up. So in the meantime, I edited the video to include just a picture and the audio, and we should have that uploaded by mid next week, probably. Okay. Or I'm sorry, the week after that, when I get it to someone. So it's
just the video then?
It's just the video. Yep.
Because that makes sense.
Yeah. So it may not be. They may ban the other one too.
Sure.
In the meantime, I have legal issues working out on that, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? But in the meantime, you can head over to the YouTube channel, subscribe to that. What I was saying before is you can have access to the HD video of the audio and video of the podcast, as well as segments from the podcast that I pull out. They're specifically entertaining in most cases, and also movie reviews as well. I've been teasing that I have some other things coming up. Those are still in the works, but just hit the bell notification after you subscribe to it so that you can be notified when videos are actually published, and I would encourage that. Also, if you're looking at the bottom of the screen right now or listening, you can follow me on Twitter and interact with me by going to @GenYConservative without the E on the end and get into some back and forth verbal agreements or arguments. Doesn't really matter to me. Sometimes I won't even respond. So you can find Colin at nowhere.
At my basement.
So welcome back.
Thank you.
By the way. This month's spotlighted charity that we're focusing on this month is actually called the Nazarene Fund. Now, their mission, we actually just got done last month spotlighting Mercury One, who has been helping out in the wildfires, the hurricanes, Puerto Rico, and some other things as well. But it's a nonprofit organization. All the funds go to charity, and they hold a once-a-year gala to pay for the administrative costs. This actually falls under Mercury One as well, but it has a different mission than what the other charity was holding. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So their mission is to rescue, restore, and rebuild persecuted Christians and religious minorities who have become refugees or internally displaced by the genocide in the Middle East. In 2014, the Christian community in Syria and Iraq were facing the greatest calamity in its 2,000-year history. The Islamic State, or ISIS, exploded out of Raqqa, Syria, and the capital of its self-proclaimed Islamic State. In a lightning strike that surprised the world, ISIS forces captured Mosul, Iraq's second largest city, and all the nearby Nineveh plain, the traditional homeland of the region's Christian community. What followed was a campaign of extortion, murder, and displacement not only of the Christians, but of their ethno-religious minorities in the region. By 2015, a population of 3 million people was reduced to 300,000, most of them displaced from their homes and fleeing to other countries. The original goal for the Nazarene Fund was to save 400 families. So far, they have saved 1,646 families, of those 8,202 individuals. So their focus has actually now shifted to a rebuilding stage since there has been a stabilizing of tensions. So their current goals are to build medical clinics and schools, mobile trauma centers, a community center, and also a transport van as well. So for more information on how you can help, what I would suggest that you do is go to www.thenazarenefund.org. Good to go?
Good to go.
All right. So before we hit some of the big news stories, let's talk first about some cool technology news. As I mentioned in the opening there, one of the blogs I love to rip on, I Effing Love Science, I actually posted this about Google planning to release their own earbuds that will compete against Apple's. And these things are sounding awesome. So they're called the Pixel Buds, okay? And they were revealed at the event this week. There was like a big technology event in San Francisco. These wireless headphones are not too dissimilar to Apple's AirPods. They sit in your ear, they're attached to each other by a wire, and have a touch panel on the front of them. And when you think touch panel, you think something bigger, right?
Right.
It's like fingertip. I don't know how they do it or what you're doing on the touchpad, but according to Google, the Pixels Bud can translate 40 languages using Google's existing Google Translate technology. You just need to hold the right earbud and say, for example, "Help me speak French." When you next speak, the buds will play out loud in French and translate what you're saying in French, so as kind of like a little loudspeaker, right? If someone speaks to you in French, the buds will automatically in real time translate their language into your ear.
That's some Star Trek stuff.
That is awesome.
That's some straight up Star Trek stuff. And actually, I'm not undressing, but this is completely unplanned.
Oh, watch it. Yep, there you go. All right.
So everyone can see my moves. That's my Star Trek shirt.
Oh boy. Well,
that's
Google,
awesome.
yeah, it's
really
cool. Incredible. So Google's not the first one to offer this technology. Skype and a startup called Pilot both touted speech translations, but the Pixel Buds stand apart as being real-time, accurate, and affordable. They're going to retail for just $160.
That's awesome.
That's like, it's a must-have if you're going to travel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
I was telling you before the show. I mean, my brother's stepson got married to a wonderful girl by the name of Cece. That's her American or Western name. She is a Chinese national. They are currently in China. They just had their baby. And my sister-in-law is planning on going over Thanksgiving. So, I mean, something like this, I noticed on there the release date's not yet listed.
November.
Oh, really? Oh, that's awesome. Hey, Jimmy, looks like you're spending $160, buddy. I will definitely make sure to pass that along. That is awesome, because that's going to help her out.
And that's just one of the features of this thing.
Yeah, that's...
So I haven't read up on too much because I haven't had time on the other stuff, but I saw the article and I was blown away. It's awesome.
The fact that it translates in but also then speaks out for you is great, but a lot of those corporate translators have got to be shaken.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You mean the actual people?
People.
Yeah.
People.
That go along to all the meetings and everything. Yeah. Boy, it's also a lot of people going to be walking around wearing these things just waiting to hear people speaking around them, too. Yeah. All right. I worked in retail. I remember being called El Diablo at T-Mobile. Like I didn't know what that meant.
It's a Mexican chicken, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
That's a Talladega Nights reference right there, Ricky Bobby.
Shake a dick. So the ratings for the NFL post-national anthem kneeling are in, and it is not a good trend. According to Deadline, last week's Sunday Night Football was down 5% from last week when the Washington Redskins beat the Oakland Raiders 27-10. Now, what's interesting about this, too, you read these kinds of stories, and 5% doesn't sound like much, right?
Right.
But at the same time, you're kind of disconnected because if you're a football fan, you're following along no matter what, right?
Sure.
I'll be honest with you. I don't have cable.
Okay.
So I'm watching on my phone. I'm watching the score sometimes. Sometimes I may find a way to watch it. Right?
Yeah.
But when I hear something like this, I think to myself, really? Are the ratings down? Are people really that mad about it? Well, you know my job and what I do. Mm-hmm. I am literally out in the field all day meeting clients and going to different people's houses and everything. I have never been so aware of this type of situation as I am right now.
Really?
My clients, I must have had 10 this week, literally, that have said they are no longer watching the NFL. They are no longer wearing their gear out. Some of them have destroyed their gear, which you were seeing videos online and stuff like that. Videos. But I was like, those are few and far between.
Right.
Some of these people have. And they are not tuning back in. And they said, it's on to baseball for me and hockey. And if they start doing it too, I'm done with those.
Yeah, but they've already started doing it. Well, not in hockey. I don't know of any hockey players, but I know some baseball players, and I'm sure with the playoffs going on, we're going to see it.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. This goes back to one of the things I said last week. I mean, you listened to the podcast and everything, and one of the things I said was this is a messaging problem. Now, my buddy Matt tends to disagree with me on this. He says that there's enough attention being brought to the plight of the minority community and their interactions with cops and everything. But if you have people tuning out of the NFL because of kneeling, that the message is lost on people.
Right.
You know, they're no longer paying attention to the reason for why they're kneeling. They're offended in a patriotic emotion.
Yeah.
That that these people are disrespecting the country's symbolic things. You know,
Sure.
the flag, the anthem, and everything else. So, you know, they're offended by these players doing this, and that's all they're seeing. The attention span of anyone, not just Americans, it's all around the world. Been all around the world. Big schnapps.
Yeah.
I don't have my leopard print jacket and Russian hat or whatever. But these people have a short attention span. The majority of people aren't going to look past the kneeling to say, hey, wow, that's really strong. Why is he kneeling?
Right.
And go to Google and search and try to find the correct answer. Go to Colin Kaepernick's words directly. They don't care that much.
No.
They don't care that much, and they don't have the attention span for it. What they do see is that they're pissed off that the national anthem and flag are being disrespected.
Yep.
And that is it.
Yep.
So to me, the messaging behind this whole thing and the kneeling is completely lost. At this point, it doesn't matter too much. I mean, it does. The goal of what he's kneeling for matters.
Sure.
But the way the protest is going, you need to change it up. Something needs to change because the message isn't getting through.
I don't know if it, I think this is kind of the start of we're still seeing the start of the conversation. Unfortunately, we're 5 weeks into this season, and however many weeks into last season when, Colin Kaepernick started to kneel.
Well, it's the end of the conversation for Kaepernick.
Right
on
now.
The field.
I mean, look,
on the field, and I say that because he could do other things with his money.
Yeah, but he could also come back at any point in time, and that's the thing. I mean, stat-wise, I think he played 9 or 11 games last season. Someone who has better internet might be able to look that up.
Are you saying I have crappy internet?
Yes. Yes, I am, and I'm not the only person who thinks that.
No.
So
I think I adjusted a few settings, so hopefully if you're watching the live stream, it may actually be going better, at least. I don't know how good, but I learned from a 9-year-old on YouTube.
There you go.
Which is the way
probably
things all
the way
go
to
now.
do it. Yeah. No, so I mean, stat-wise, he could come back. I mean, he is.
You think so?
Yeah.
Because I hear from a lot of football fanatics that are stat people that he is not a good quarterback.
Well, I here's the thing. I listened to can I say ESPN? Am I allowed to bring that stuff up? Okay, so I listen to ESPN Chicago. I'm a Chicago Bears fan. I know. Okay?
Oh, I'm an Eagles fan. We're always disappointed.
I get it. Yeah, sorry. But so I was listening to them talk, and they were talking about stats, and they were doing this thing, and it was actually really interesting. It was blind stats. And so they were just reading the stats off, and they were saying, because their first-round draft pick is starting against the Minnesota Vikings on Monday night because Mike Glennon, unfortunately, has not panned out. And they basically said, well, what if he had these stats? Would you be more comfortable with it? And they ran down a list of, I don't know, let's say like 7 different players' stats. And everybody jumped on player number 3, and player number 3 ended up being RG3. Okay. Where player number 4 and 5 were Dan Marino and John Elway. And then at the end was a former quarterback by the name of Joe Montana. Arguably before Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback to ever play the game.
Yeah.
So stats, one thing. You can argue that he had that intangible. He can extend plays and all of that. But, he might be able to come back is basically all I'm saying. But back to the point at hand, I think what he did was start a much-needed conversation. I mean, It's now been over a year. We're still talking about it because now it's catching on.
But we're not talking about it.
Right. We're talking about, but again,
there's a core there.
A person by themselves is intelligent. People in mass are not, and we know that. Yep. So basically right now what we have is the mass talking about, the very first part, what they're angry about versus the other side and why they're kneeling. The first group is saying, no. That's, we're in the infancy stage, right? So we'll see what happens with it, and I'm curious to see where the conversation goes. And I to your point, I don't think they're going to stop kneeling. I think something else will not take its place, but will be added on top of it. And as it builds, so will the conversation. As the conversation gets more open and more understanding on both sides, maybe we'll start seeing some of the kneeling no longer happen, some of the sitting no longer happen.
The other part of the problem with the messaging is that it's now been convoluted, right? Because Colin Kaepernick was kneeling for one reason, being police brutality and cops killing innocent black people in communities and everything, while the NFL, well, I'm sorry, let's backtrack. Trump responded to that and said that anyone that does that should be fired, and the NFL as a whole, with the teams and everything, started kneeling in protest to Trump, which was no longer about the Kaepernick issue. Now it has become a defiance on freedom of speech and everything else. And then, on top of that, you have people, I mean, look at my podcast last week. I like Austin, you know? I respect the heck out of him for serving in the military. But you cannot tell him otherwise, that even though they say they don't want to disrespect the military, they have respect for the military, it's not that. He sees the red in that flag as blood of the military.
I heard that. That was a very impactful statement.
It is, and it's true, because that is what that symbolism is for. You're not going to tell him or anyone else that feels that otherwise, and that is a wall in the conversation. You can no longer go past that wall and start talking about police brutality, because all they see is you are kneeling and disrespecting the military members that have died for this country and the freedom of speech to lead to that other conversation.
Sure.
So it's just interesting.
I agree.
So let's talk a little bit more about freedom of speech in the NFL, though, huh?
Okay. Okay.
Here we go. So Cam Newton.
He's good on fantasy.
Panthers.
Yeah.
He's in some hot water.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, especially with feminists around the country. After making what he thought was a funny remark, let's take a look at what Cam Newton had to say.
I know you take a lot of pride in seeing your receivers play well. Devin Funchess has seemed to really embrace the physicality of his routes and getting those extra yards. Does that give you a little bit of an enjoyment to see him kind of truck sticking people out there?
It's funny to hear a female talk about routes. Like, it's funny. But fun is coming along, man. We're gonna. This is a big game for him.
He's waiting for that laughter, and no one's giving it to him, except for us in the background.
Do you think as he's saying, he's thinking, oh no, oh, I did it anyway. Oh, I'm going to pay for this later.
What have I done? It was a stupid remark, but it was actually pretty funny. I mean, people get their panties in a twist over nothing.
A lot of things.
It's
a lot of
horrible.
Things.
What you become offended over sometimes.
I'm offended by that.
But I'm sure the reporter would have been shocked if he had shown up at her home and started talking about cooking and laundry folding techniques too. Whoa!
Good luck, Chris Ford.
And good night. But apparently, Dannon Yogurt was one of his sponsors.
Dannon or Oikos? Is that the same company?
I'm not saying Dannon here. And they were not too happy with his remarks, so they've actually dropped him as a sponsor. They said, "We have shared our concerns with Cam and will no longer work with him."
Let's go to YoPlay.
What's that?
YoPlay. Yeah, it's the other yogurt company.
Is that the one that Jamie Lee Curtis was for? No, that was
that was the probiotic one. That was the pooping one. You know, they'd show the stomach. Look, if you eat it, you get all these green and yellow and blue dots in your stomach, and then they evacuate.
Working, yeah.
That was a weird commercial. Yeah.
Kind of takes that True Lies scene out of your head, doesn't it?
You know, it makes more sense during the Michael Myers Halloween chases.
Yeah. Extra fuel.
Yeah. Mostly just what I'd be doing in my pants if I saw that dude coming at me.
Oh, boy.
Evacuate.
So, this is actually funny because, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, that you were actually here for this last discussion. But over the spring, when we were discussing the Joker's Reject Plan, walking around with baseball bats on the Evergreen State campus to intimidate those with the other opinion, any other opinion but their own. Well, the college has suffered a severe backlash in enrollment and are trying to proactively resolve their issues. So according to the Daily Wire, Evergreen State College has sanctioned 80 students. And this was actually, I didn't put the other number in here, but it was actually out of like 170 students that they investigated, 80 were sanctioned. And they also debuted a free speech guide.
So what you can and can't say. Sure.
I got to give them credit here, okay? Because when you hear the wording of the free speech guide in regards to it and everything, very well said, I think. Okay?
Sure.
So Evergreen is facing both a budget and enrollment crisis since students attacked Professor Brett Weinstein last May, alleging that he was racist for choosing not to participate in an event designed to show the impact of minority students on campus, but would have required all white students and faculty to stay home on a certain given day.
Right.
Students became so enraged at the incident that they seized control of campus facilities, driving off campus safety officers and forcing the school to shut down for several days. Now, I'm not sure if this is the same incident, but there was another school where the students went into the president's office,
right,
and basically held him hostage.
Had like a list of demands.
Yeah, like no homework for minority students and stuff like
that. I don't know if that was Evergreen.
No, I think it was a different one, which just shows you the kind of state of disrepair we're in right now.
No, you know.
Are you? Weinstein and his wife, also a professor, settled with the school for $500,000. So I'm sure he's doing okay right now. In a lawsuit that alleged Evergreen students had interfered with the teacher's right to free speech and his academic and intellectual freedoms. Evergreen has also issued a free speech guide to students that instructs them in the basics of the First Amendment, which they should have learned in high school at least, and reminds them that they cannot shut down free speech regardless of how offensive they may find it. Which is always a saying, the speech that you should protect the most is the speech that you disagree with, because there's always someone on the other side that should be fighting for your speech as well.
Sure.
The First Amendment, this is what they say. The First Amendment allows speech that you may find extreme or hateful. It's not unusual for people to want to silence others' speech and eliminate that which is unwelcome, disagreeable, or even deeply offensive, states the guide. However, it is the protection of unpopular expression that lies at the core of the First Amendment, which makes it unlawful to prohibit speech based on content.
They need to roll this out at UCLA.
All over the place. There's just a free speech week at Berkeley, too.
Berkeley, that's what I meant.
Yeah. This is crazy. Let's see here. Anything to say on that before we move on?
No, I mean, I think that it's, unfortunately, we live in a society now where you have to, tiptoe and not hurt anybody's feelings, because the repercussions of hurting someone's feelings with words is just unbelievably damning to everybody involved.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're not...
You were so carefully walking around your wording this.
Yeah.
And that is just an example of where we are.
Well, I mean, at this point, you just want to tell people to shut the bleep up.
Yes.
I mean, and fortunately, somebody did that, sort of. Good job. You'll find out who later. But yeah, no, I think it's important that people understand the fact that just because you disagree with someone else doesn't mean they don't have the same rights as you.
Right.
I mean, yeah, you might find it offensive, but you shouldn't go around punching neo-Nazis in the face. Although secretly, I kind of watched that video about 30 times laughing the entire time.
It's like one of those ones where it's at that moment they repeat, just like over and over.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get the premise of it, and I absolutely, I agree with it. It's a tough pill to swallow, and I think a lot of people are going to have a problem with that.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that ends up. A lot of pink aluminum baseball bats out there.
Lots of
Daisy Dukes. Green Daisy Dukes. I love that picture. That picture, if I could blow that up and put it on a T-shirt, I would. But I'm afraid I'd get sued.
It's the cover for the Millennial Breakfast Club.
Maybe the breakfast.
Oh man, brunch.
Yeah, breakfast, brunch, lunch, dinner. Just a feast.
Well, one of them was at least going all out on that.
Yeah, made me look small.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So while we're speaking of social justice warriors and their violence and shutting down of free speech, with all the news over the Vegas shooting, you may have missed a massive undercover video made by Steven Crowder's crew infiltrating an Antifa group. Have you seen this video?
I've seen clips from it.
Yeah. So the undercover video shows the lengths at which these groups are willing to go, and it directly contradicts the media's narrative that paints them as peaceful opposition to fascist movements. There is use of encrypted apps on phones to communicate with each other via secretive messages that can't be read without the programs, and screenshots can't be taken of the phone itself. But they completely forgot that you can take pictures with other phones or cameras or anything else.
Yep.
So they actually did get pictures of the conversations. They were also giving each other like code names and stuff like that too.
Oh, I didn't know about the code names.
Oh, it's actually a really funny part of the video.
Sunflower and Star Fox.
No, they go through all these of like, I forget what they were. They're like, they were almost military type names, right?
Almost.
And
good.
then they get to one that's like Bill. And it was his name. And Bill's like, crap. What happened? Because they actually found him on Facebook and labeled him as that. So
as Bill?
Yeah. Like they pointed him out directly on Facebook. And then they even caught this one girl who they're like, who is this? And she's on social media. That was me. Well, that kind of gets rid of the whole mask idea and why you were.
Yeah, I was going to ask, did she wear the bandana?
They all do, yeah.
Does this smell like chloroform to you?
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, could you imagine handing those out to a group of Antifa? Everybody, the opposition shows up and they're all just laying in the street. Well,
standing there.
Whoa. We didn't do it. No. So, also of note, these peaceful Antifa protesters were handing out knives to their group, and one even mentioned an arsenal in his car trunk, including a sawed-off shotgun, to use against the people on the right that they were about to protest. So he said, if things get iffy, just run to this car that looks like this. It has a dent in the back. You can't miss it. Pop open the trunk. There's a bunch of weapons inside to use. But everyone had a knife at least.
Oh, good. Because that's safe.
Yeah.
No.
Thankfully, Steven Crowder's co-host or producer or whatever, Not Gay Jared, who was the undercover operative on this one, got out of there and alerted the police, or this could have been another big incident involving wounded or killed people. I don't want to ruin the video for you because it is definitely worth watching. Unfortunately, with all the other events that happened this week, it kind of took a back burner to everything. This is a big video because the media has been pushing this narrative against Trump, who said that both sides are bad in the Charlottesville incident. And they were saying, no, Antifa's there against fascism, even though they're using fascist techniques to shut down the opposition.
The brown shirts now.
And one of the other issues that they had with Trump was they said there's good people on both sides. Mm-hmm. I kind of agree with them. Look, there's people that were mixed into the Antifa that didn't want to get involved in the fighting and everything, but were there for the cause.
Right.
There were people that probably supported the statue staying up and took a look around and were like, crap, there's a lot of tiki torches around me and people with weapons and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what I'm here for, you know? And, you know, they tried to generalize and put this blanket statement over both groups. Antifa is completely good. No, they weren't. They came with weapons. Okay?
They did.
The neo-Nazis are completely bad. That's true. The KKK people, the neo-Nazis, but all the people that showed up, I think there were probably maybe one or two in there.
I'll give you the
benefit of the doubt.
The benefit of the doubt, the law of averages, however you want to do it, and say yes, there were good and bad people on both sides of the coin. Unfortunately, what was portrayed, especially from the right, was neo-Nazis, KKK, white supremacists, all of which I could go on a speech, but I've been told that I have to watch my language, so I won't.
By me?
I have the text that says I'm not allowed to curse about them. Or curse.
Oh, yeah. Listen,
that's an infringement of my First Amendment right. No,
I'm so offended.
Yeah, I am. I'm a Pepsi person. Yeah. Anyway, I just...
Get the hell out of here. That was too far.
That's the line. That's the line. No, I just, what was portrayed and not being there, I can't, speak on either side. I'm
a
realist.
Obviously, cameras focused on certain people.
Yeah, of course. And I feel like, had I gone down, because I do believe in the historical value of some of these statues, all of the statues, to be honest with you, and I look at it and say, yes, it's part of this person's life is a blemish on American history, but it's still part of the American history. When you fall, you break your arm, you get a massive cut, something, you scar. The scar doesn't go away.
I didn't know where you're going with that, but it's a good analogy.
So, I'll bring it back for full circle.
You don't throw the pictures away of you in a cast. It happens.
Yeah.
No, okay.
Yeah, you keep the cast, the smelly, rotty.
Oh.
No.
You've had a cast then.
Yeah. Once or twice.
Cool. What is that?
Yeah, I don't know where you're going with that one, but we'll move past that. But, I feel like had I been standing there and, unfortunately, I don't grow hair on top of my head, and I see a bunch of guys with the white power, white supremacists, I'm probably going to go to Pizza Hut. All right, guys,
Yeah, you make a good point. You may go down there for the purpose of preserving history, no matter what the cost and everything, and you get down there and you're looking around, you're like, well, I'm certainly not going to stand with the neo-Nazis over there, and I also don't want to be pushed by this crowd over here into a confrontation either. So you stand off to the side, and guess what? The media wasn't focusing on the people that were taking a sideline. They were focusing on the battlefronts.
No. And I mean, the truth is, in a situation where fighting would have started, I probably would have tried to get into the center of it and break it up, because that's the kind of person I am. But, for me, what I'm trying to say about that is I would not stand, of course, just in general,
shoulder to shoulder with these people.
Yeah, I'm not standing with white supremacists in any way, shape, or form. But I'm also not going to stand with the people who are going to try and destroy any type of history. Because the question is, if you want to repaint history, where does the line end? Unfortunately, things happen in the past. You grow and you learn from it, and that's what being human is all about. So,
I would actually recommend a book to you guys if you have the opportunity. There's a book called Miracles and Massacres, and it is a book that focuses half and half, basically, on the best of American history, some stories that you may not know, as well as some of the worst American tales of history and the blemishes, like the Japanese-American internment camps, I think was one of the things with Tokyo Rose and stuff. It talks about the Trail of Tears, I think, is one of the stories. Bad crap happened in this country.
Right.
Back to the American flag thing, I kind of say, even under the worst conditions of what we've gone through in the past and where we've gotten to now, you take the history with a grain of salt. That horrible stuff happened. You can't forget about it. Right. No one's saying to forget about it, but focus on the here and now and moving forward and what we can do together as a unified country and make change happen, right? And now, if you're part of that argument with Colin Kaepernick, right, and you want to make that change happen, you have to acknowledge the past and the past mistakes and learn from them.
Right.
So if you're tearing down statues, you're erasing that stuff that you should be learning from.
Right.
In my mind, right?
Right. Well, that's, and you're completely dissolving those lessons to be learned of future generations.
Yeah.
How can you build upon something if there's no foundation to build upon?
Exactly. All right. So check out that Steven Crowder video on his YouTube channel. It's awesome, and it'll give you a real good inside look at the type of mentality that's in Antifa, and it's not exactly peaceful, so that's just something to keep in mind. Okay. So if you're a fan of The Walking Dead, like I am, are you a fan?
More of the comic books. I haven't gotten to the latest season. It just came out on the Netflix. Like calling it the Netflix. You're welcome. But I already know because after a year of hiding from who Negan caves in Florida
You didn't know?
I had no idea. I had
How
not.
did you avoid that?
Because I am very unluckily, I'm blind luck. I would
But
like
you
to call
knew.
it.
I mean,
in the comic book, you
yeah.
knew.
Yeah.
And then,
wait, graphic novel.
Yeah. Sorry. In the graphic
We don't
novel.
want to offend any of our fellow nerds at all.
Sure. In the pencil drawings on a piece of paper. No, you know, and
yes.
So you have an idea, and I got to March without confirmation, and sitting around a table with my dad, my brother, my cousin's wife, or my cousin's husband, sorry, and my uncle, and we're all talking about whatever, and we're talking about how my father likes to spoil things accidentally. Just doesn't, and he goes, oh, like what? At this point, it's been over a year, so he basically goes, oh, like how Glenn and Abraham died in The Walking Dead. My brother is sitting across the table at me, and he looks at me and sees me just stop and slowly turn, because probably about 5 minutes earlier, I had told my brother how I was excited about the fact that I had not known to this point.
Yeah.
And so they got to see firsthand my father and the spoiler alerts. So yeah, I didn't know. So I've only met this Walking Dead character on screen for 2 minutes, not even. Yeah.
He's good.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
You know what the thing is, though? I guess the original character in the graphic novel was based on Henry Rollins.
Oh, really?
I think so. At least
that
in
makes
part,
sense.
The look of him and everything.
Yeah.
And I was hoping they would get him to play Negan.
That'd be awesome. That would have been awesome.
Because as awesome as
Jeffrey Dean
Morgan is at playing the role, he's just not built like the graphic novel Negan, which is like a biker dude with muscles.
He's
kind of skinny.
He's Sam and Dean Winchester's dad.
Oh, dude. I know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm a nerd.
Supernatural references.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Carry on, my wayward son.
It's back next week. I'm so excited.
Oh, they all are. All the
I know.
WB,
All the DC, the DC shows.
By the way, have you caught Riverdale?
No, you told me about it last time, and I still haven't watched
the first season.
Yeah.
At first, you're like, "Oh man, this is like high school drama crap all over again." But then you watch it; it is a great murder mystery type show. It's awesome.
I'll
it's really
check it
good.
out. I got stuck on Rick and Morty.
I have to check that out because people are going nuts over it.
It is. I will tell you what. The way people were going nuts, I was expecting something a little different.
Yeah.
I'm a
fan.
Well, I started watching it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I just finished before I came here. I have 2 episodes left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. You recommend it?
It's brutal comedy.
Okay.
Let's just put it that way.
Okay. So anyway, let's go back to this. You already know what an insanely cool villain Negan is if you watch a show, and certainly in the comic books. Personally,
yes. The
comic book version, it has a special place in my heart because I was introduced to him in the comics, or in the comic before the show.
Yeah.
Well, the actor who plays him on the AMC series, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, just got attacked by extreme lefties and Black Lives Matter supporters for a shirt he was spotted in. Now, Morgan was photographed with a fan while he was sporting a shirt that had the American flag and the blue stripe, otherwise known as the Blue Lives Matter flag. The responses on Twitter were foul and undeserving. Amongst the most noteworthy were, from one person, they said, "Sincerely, one of the worst things to ever happen to me. Jeffrey Dean Morgan is a Blue Lives Matter advocate." One of the worst things that's happened to you? Do you leave the house at all?
I want to live in this fluffy world of pink clouds and cotton candy, and I like cotton candy. Yeah, that's okay.
Oh boy, here's another one. I have been betrayed quite a few times in my life, but Jeffrey Dean Morgan wearing a Blue Lives Matter shirt today might top the list.
That's got to be a 12-year-old. I mean, come on. You've been betrayed by a dude wearing a shirt.
What has he owed you?
Well, you see, because he's a guy that you've never talked to.
Yeah.
Never communicated with.
He's not allowed to have a personal, private life.
Well, he's an actor.
He has to be on screen all the time and represent his character.
Right. And if he's not representing his character, isn't he supposed to, Oh, okay.
Just get back in the house.
Yeah. Okay.
You don't want to be seen out in public. You're out of character.
Sure.
It
Well,
ruins it.
that's where the paparazzi.
Yeah,
they
bastards.
come in.
Those bastards.
That movie was great, though.
Here's the other one. Rest in peace, Jeffrey Dean Morgan. He ain't dead. I just wish he was after that Blue Lives Matter post. Whoa! He supports law enforcement, so now he deserves to die.
Sure.
Doesn't it just progressively just go down the line of like getting worse on how these people like view this? He's wearing.
You ruined my day. You've betrayed me. You deserve to die.
These people must be a blast at parties.
I can only imagine all of them have gluten allergies.
Yeah. They're the ones at soccer games in the personal tents over the chair. I can't because the grass was just freshly cut.
That's true.
So anyway, Jeffrey Dean Morgan in awesome fashion. Now, unfortunately, he backtracked this, but his response on Instagram was, "Dear a-holes, blue lives do matter. Can't believe I need to explain this fact to you. All lives matter, all of them. This shirt was made in response to the cold-blooded murder of two good cops in New York, both that had immigrated to the U.S. and took an oath to protect and serve. This shirt was given to me at a convention by a woman whose son was shot during what was a routine traffic stop. He was black. I'm so tired of mean people. People who wake up in the morning and I think just sit behind the safety of their computers anonymously and start crap," which wasn't crap. "Grow the F up. The world has enough horrible things going on right now without your petty bullcrap. Speaking of cops, I'd like to commend those in blue that saved countless lives in Vegas. Those first responders saved hundreds, if not thousands. So you trolls, go crawl under the rock in which you came. Good people matter. You don't."
I salute you,
I don't
sir.
know why he backtracked that statement. Because he offended people.
Because he offended people, and he works in Hollywood, and you can't offend anyone in Hollywood because if you do, your career is pretty much DOA. So,
So he eventually erased the post and replaced it with an apology of sorts, which he also then erased the apology too.
Good.
Because it probably offended people that liked his statement in the first place. Well, now you're just going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Should have just left it.
Just offend everybody.
Yep. So his apology said, "Hey folks, I'm going to delete this thing. God knows it's out there anyway. I stand behind the sentiment. But what was meant as one thing has been taken as another. I understand those that are upset. And to those people, I apologize. Of course, Black Lives Matter. I stand behind that. Always have. My point, calling me a Nazi for wearing this shirt that was given to me by a cop's grieving mother at a con, she wasn't trying to undercut BLM. Nor was I when I put it on. That's a promise. This country means the world to me. The good people in it mean the world to me. The ones looking for a fight around every corner, racists, bullies, they don't. We are a country divided and it's getting scarier every day. Everyone means something. Good people are needed, now more than ever. I shall take better care in wording when posting opinions. But opinions, we all have them and we're entitled to them. I appreciate the ones here that have been thoughtful responses. The ones that are filled with more hate, let's block each other forever, shall we? It's gotten very tricky to say things that are politically correct that everyone agrees on. We can be offended by thoughts or opinions that we weren't offended by yesterday. So again, my apologies to you. Okay, let me navigate this minefield a bit before I try again. All my best, JD.
So can you scroll up for a minute to the beginning of the retraction? Because he says that he put something in this retraction that I really liked. Basically, he says, I'm going to delete this thing. God knows it's out there anyway. But what he basically says right after that is, I stand behind the sentiment. Mm-hmm. Basically saying he still stands by Blue Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, and he goes into further detail on that. If you're going to print a retraction, one of the things I always hate about, if you make a stand and then
it's like a complete turnaround.
Yeah, if it's a complete 180, at least in this, he stands by it. Mm-hmm. And you got to respect that. For what it's worth,
this is all 80.
People are, like I said before, easily offended. And so, I understand him getting in hot water for the initial post, and then getting in hot water for deleting the post. Just get over it.
Yes.
Just get over it. I mean, how hard is that? Yeah. Yep. But I think the way he had that apology made sense, because he never said he was sorry. He just said, I apologize for, and he's basically putting it back on the people who got offended.
I follow this one actress on Instagram from the show The 100. Yeah.
I know what The 100 is. I've never watched it. Colleen likes it.
She posted some stupid stuff, completely ignorant of anything firearm related, right?
Great.
After the Vegas shooting.
Of course.
And I looked at some of the comments because what she said was just completely false, and I wanted to see if people were calling her out on her BS. And they were. And she said under the one, God, just delete me from your following. And that's what I did. I didn't get involved. I didn't want to see that. I didn't want to, because you're not going to change her mind.
Right.
She put it out there because she believes strongly about that.
Sure.
So instead of getting into a back and forth argument and getting myself worked up over anything, I just unfollowed her.
Yeah.
Just do that.
Yeah.
Like, where is the self-control from people to, say, oh, I'm so offended? Then just don't look at it. Don't listen to it.
Don't be ridiculous. I have a right to be in your space.
Yes, exactly.
But this is my safe space. Whoa! Don't come in here.
So
I'm in a box.
Yeah, these people.
It's a special kind of stupid, but it's.
It's actually unfortunate that he backtracked under the pressure, because what he did and said was actually not disrespectful at all. He said he supports everyone, that everyone's lives matter, but that doesn't matter to those that think that one message should be being pushed.
Right.
He supports all lives, but you can't take that unifying stance today without pissing people off. That's what that is. So, we talked last week in regards to the NFL. One of the things I said was that I hate politics being mixed into everything entertainment. You know what I mean? Like, listen, if I go to see a political movie or a play like Hamilton,
you're getting it.
Paying for it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't put my money down for that ticket thinking, oh man, I don't know what I'm getting myself into here.
Sure.
And then I see it and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so offended. One thing that Matt, who you've been trying to get you guys together on the podcast.
I've listened to him when he's been on here, and I think he and I would enjoy talking to him.
I know I've been trying to get you guys together on the podcast. But one of the things he said to me at one point in time was that politics has always been in sports. Muhammad Ali, Jesse Owens, stuff like that. I agree. But because something has had a track record of going in the past, doesn't mean that you can't be sick of it and not want it to continue.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm just sick of trying to escape things, reality. Watch a good football game or watch a good movie or something. Forget about the crap that's going on in my life and just relax for the day without getting worked up over real life crap that they try to inject into my entertainment.
Right.
You know?
Well, I think you said it last week where you sit down to watch a football game to shut your mind off.
Yeah.
To put, this stuff at rest.
Yes.
Even if it's only for, I don't know. I don't watch Eagles games. They take 3.5 hours like a Bears game does. It's normally just a shellacking. It's pretty awful. I'm doing a lot of screaming. My blood pressure raises, and then I eat nachos.
But it doesn't require much thinking.
No.
You just yell at.
Yeah.
Ah!
Yeah.
It's a primal reaction to things.
Damn Glennon.
What'd you say?
Mike Glennon was our quarterback until Monday when we start a rookie against the Minnesota Vikings.
Vikings.
I refuse to call them anything but.
So, anyway, it's bad enough when celebrities abuse their spotlight to polarize their fan base with political rants, but for some ungodly reason, they are also asked by reporters for their political thoughts and egged into situations as well at times. So it is with the boss, Bruce Springsteen.
No.
Yeah, you a Springsteen fan?
What'd he do?
In an interview with Variety published this week, rock and roller Bruce Springsteen explained why he will not be writing any anti-Trump diatribes.
Oh.
I would have no business in politics. I'm just not interested in policymaking enough. I know people in entertainment who are interested in those things, but I'm a musician. Good job. Thank you. In a response to being asked why he didn't come out in support of Hillary Clinton's campaign earlier. So again, they're egging him on. Why are you doing this? Like, get involved. That's essentially what this reporter's trying to do. Hey, I need you to say something controversial here. Right?
Trap him.
Yeah. He said, I don't think I'm necessarily that essential of a factor. And I still tend to be a little bit ambivalent about getting involved directly like that in political campaigns. I've done it when I felt it was really necessary, and that maybe my 2 cents might make some small bit of difference. But the more you do it, your 2 cents become 1 cent and then no sense whatsoever. So I think your credibility and your impact lessens the more you do it. So I've been hesitant to overplay my hand in that area, and I generally come to service when I feel it's kind of necessary and it might help a little bit. So there you have it. Brucey doesn't want to go and get political at all.
Thank you. Thank you?
Of course, if you look back into his history with his greatest hits, you may fall on a song Born in the USA.
Yeah.
Pretty rah-rah-rah America, right?
Yeah.
Well,
don't do this.
While many sing this as a sort of patriotic anthem, especially in the chorus, most tend to overlook the anti-American and anti-war lyrics like, got in a little hometown jam, so they put a rifle in my hand, sent me off to a foreign land to go and kill the yellow man. And you read through it, it's really an anti-Vietnam War and anti-USA, and it keeps on going back to kind of a sarcastic born in the USA.
I'm 38 years old. I didn't know the words to that song other than Born in the USA. Thanks.
Well, a lot of people don't know that, and they sing in it, and they think it's very patriotic.
I know. Everybody just... Born.
It kind of goes along with the whole, this land is your land, this land is my land.
Yeah.
That is socialist as all hell.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And if you hear Bernie Sanders singing it, ooh.
It's on Sesame Street right now.
Him singing it?
No, Big Bird marching down the street.
Yeah. Did you ever hear Sanders sing This Land is Your Land, This Land is My Land?
No, but I can only imagine.
It is a train wreck.
Who's your friend who does the Bernie Sanders impression?
Mike.
Yeah. Mike, good job. That's pretty funny.
One of these days we may just have to go through a whole podcast just doing impressions only and try to make it through.
Yeah, I can't be on that because I can't do impressions.
This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Times. Thanks, Obama.
Thanks. Yeah, I liked it. I like it.
So now you can understand why I kneel or not sing that song when it comes on. That was a little joke there.
I got it.
Yeah.
I don't sing that song because I don't know those words. But now you've also ruined that song for me. So I have to go back and rethink the past. Did you ever see the movie Canadian Bacon with John Candy? I think it was his last movie.
It's literally been over a decade. It's probably a decade and a half.
So the scene where they're driving, they've invaded Canada and they're driving. They stole the truck and they're driving down and they're all singing the song. They have this blaring.
Born in the USA.
Born in the USA. Okay. And they realize no one knows the words, so they're all doing the same. Born in the USA.
Isn't that amazing, though? Yeah. That you didn't realize it.
No.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
but you should know.
Yeah. Ignorance is bliss.
Sometimes.
I want to now plead the fifth.
But hey, I like. Hey, if the most I do is learn you on this tonight
and ruin the boss for me, great.
Oh boy. Okay, so let's talk about some hypocrisy in politics. And you would think, like usual, I'd be going after the left, but actually, it's the right that I'm going after because pro-life Republican Congressman Tim Murphy told his mistress to get an abortion and abruptly quits without completing his term.
Classy.
Yeah, oh yeah. So U.S. Congressman Tim Murphy announced on Wednesday night that he would retire at the end of his term in January 2019. But by Thursday, he had submitted his resignation to House Speaker Paul Ryan. Text messages show Murphy, a pro-life Republican, asked his mistress, Shannon Edwards, to get an abortion. He said in the text, I think this is what he said. Oh, I'm sorry, she wrote, and you have zero issue posting your pro-life stance all over the place when you had no issue asking me to abort our unborn child just last week when we thought that it was one of the options. She said this as reported by the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. I get what you say about my March for Life messages, Murphy responded. I've never written them. Staff does them. I read them and winced. I told staff, don't write anymore. I will. I mean, doesn't this just go to show the laziness of D.C. too?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if he isn't really pro-life,
I'm not.
Then
why?
Why are you allowing your staff to push out those messages? Why push anything out at all if you just avoid it?
Yeah, you're basically just
slimy. Slimy.
Yeah.
So Edwards confronted Murphy about his contradictory viewpoints. Edwards, it turned out, actually wasn't pregnant. Murphy is married to Nanette Missig and has an adult daughter, Bevan.
Not for long.
No. Actually, yeah, that is
not about the adult daughter. I'm saying
no. Murphy applauded the H.R. 7 bill in January, which states no federal funds will be used to pay for abortions. I proudly sponsored and voted for this important bill. The lawmaker is married and has an adult daughter, as I mentioned. The affair was revealed in the midst of Edwards' divorce proceedings. So that's the mistress's divorce proceedings.
Uh-oh.
This kind of goes back to my whole conversation about moral standing in politics and stuff like that, where if you're a Republican or you're on the right, and you take such hardline stances on things, especially being pro-life or anti-gay marriage, and you get caught having sex with another man, that was Democrat.
Yeah, I know.
He's Democrat, but there was one really Republican lawmaker who was like under a bathroom stall knocking foots to signal for gay sex and everything.
That's right. I remember that. That was a dude from like North Carolina or something.
Jersey.
Like that. Jersey?
Jersey.
Oh, a lot closer.
Yeah, which makes sense then.
Well,
but
tappa.
tappy. But and then you have the getting caught with mistresses and stuff when you talk about valuing marriage and how traditional marriage is like between a man and a woman, not a man and a woman and another woman or anything like that. But when you take these moral stances and principles that you tout and you get caught doing something hypocritical towards them, you have a hell of a lot further to fall off of that pedestal than someone that doesn't take any stances at all. Hence, Bill Clinton. He never said anything about valuing marriage. He never said anything about cheating. So the public gave him a lot of forgiveness when he got caught with Monica Lewinsky, because someone like that could actually just say, I never said marriage was sacred or anything like that.
Yeah, he, Bill.
I'm just saying I like that cigar.
Oh.
It's not cherry flavored.
No.
Bill, settle down. Get out from that curtain.
That's what you should do. You should one side,
like
the other side.
Go for the jars of impressions and situations back and forth like they do on the late shows and everything. Yeah. So obviously slimy, I think that Ben Shapiro actually made a great point on his podcast, though, which is that, the problem here is what he did. It's not what he said and that he was hypocritical. Mm-hmm. That certainly goes against his character, right?
Right.
But I'm going to stand for what the guy says on pro-life and everything, right? Just because he did something against that doesn't mean he's wrong for saying that. It's just that he's a hypocrite.
Yeah.
The stance is right.
His initial stance is correct. Yeah. His actions
speak louder than his words.
Unfortunately.
Yep. Okay, so let's see. Democratic mayor of San Juan, Puerto Rico. So we're actually getting to our last two topics here. Puerto Rico being one, and then we're going to get into the gun conversation, which is huge. So, we'll try to get through this as fast as possible, but this is actually some funny crap.
Yeah.
Not what Puerto Rico's going through.
No.
But the back and forth between San Juan, Puerto Rico, the mayor and Trump, and some of the stupid things that Trump is saying and doing, we're going to be making fun of both sides here.
Good.
Good. The Democratic mayor of San Juan, Puerto Rico, Carmen Yulin Cruz, started a back and forth battle with President Trump over his administration's response to the hurricane devastation. So first, we're going to show her initial plea to the press. Let's take a look.
I am begging anyone that can hear us to save us from dying. I am mad as hell because my people's lives are at stake.
Lady, turn around. I mean, you're making this speech for supplies and stuff and being saved, and you have supply mountains literally right behind you.
Supplies.
Yeah, supplies. Whoa, who put that there? Wait a minute.
What?
Oh, my gosh. It's like,
Yeah.
So, not only that, then she ends up doing this interview with Anderson Cooper. Did you see this?
I did not see an Anderson Cooper.
This is good. And I'm surprised Anderson Cooper didn't call her out on this. Okay?
Sure.
So he's talking to her about what's going on down in Puerto Rico because it's devastated from the hurricane and everything.
Absolutely.
And take notice to what she's wearing.
Mayor Carmen Yulin Cruz joins me now. Thanks so much for being with us. You said you're mad as hell earlier today. Tonight you're wearing a T-shirt that says, "Help us, we are dying." That's really happening.
It is really happening.
That's not a metaphor.
No, it's not a metaphor.
Well, I got to ask the question that's kind of on everybody's mind. If things are going on and it's devastating down there, and, where'd you get the T-shirt? And where did you find the time for it? And who the hell is making T-shirts when they could be helping other people out?
Screen printing is a very vital
relief effort.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
hashtag selfies.
Listen, one of the things that Trump always gets in trouble for is being a child.
Tweeting,
yeah. Well, isn't this kind of the same thing?
Yeah.
In a physical form?
Yeah.
Right? She's putting a message out there at the wrong time. She could have just said that in the interview. We're dying down here. We need help.
Yeah.
Instead, she thought it was relevant to take time out, go find a place that has power or whatever it takes for this kind of stuff, get a screen printed T-shirt to say her message, to be childish and throw it in the face of the President of the United States.
Right. Well, that's That's a good use of the time
and resources.
Mayor of a city devastated by a hurricane. These people don't need help.
So
she needs that T-shirt.
Yeah. So I have a message to the many liberal friends of mine that are posting the most asinine, uninformed, and misleading attacks on the president's response to this natural disaster. I would like to point out some facts to you. This is an island. It isn't like Katrina, Irma, or Harvey, where you can quickly drive in semi-trucks with supplies. Maybe you should actually look up something called the Jones Act. Are you familiar with the Jones Act?
I am not.
Okay. 2 things tonight. That means we have to hit a number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The Jones Act, passed after World War I, requires that shipping between U.S. ports be conducted with American-made ships that are staffed by American crews. The Jones Act prevented foreign vessels from delivering aid to Puerto Rico in the wake of the hurricane. It was President Trump's suggestion and Republican Senators Mike Lee and John McCain that introduced legislation to permanently exempt Puerto Rico from the Jones Act. Certainly not Democrats. This is a common sense decision on the merits that will help the island recover from Hurricane Maria. The Jones Act is a bad law. It costs Puerto Rico $17 billion in economic growth between 1990 and 2010, according to one economist's estimate, and costs Hawaii and Alaska, too, because they're technically disconnected. Not technically, they are. It raises the cost of consumer goods, which particularly hurts poor consumers. It's also estimated to increase gas prices for everyone else in America by 12 cents because of the way it goes. So what's not explained here that I wrote down from the Jones Act is that in order to get things from anywhere in the world to Puerto Rico, you first have to come to the United States and then go down there to Puerto Rico. You can't go directly there.
You have to go to the continental U.S. and then to the island.
Yep.
So
it slows everything down and hurts this type of process and relief.
So I will be honest and talk about my ignorance here for a moment when talking about this whole topic. Puerto Rico is not a state.
No, right.
It is a territory.
Right. They are U.S. citizens.
Okay, so that was going to be question number 1 that I have. And then question number 2 is, as a territory, are they still protected under the same
rights?
So no. So like FEMA.
Yes.
I think they are. We have these we have these crisis teams that get put in place almost immediately. And I just don't know, continental I understand because we're landlocked. It's, point A to point B. You don't have to go over water. You can go around the lake, around the river. The ocean's a little bit trickier. So I don't, the way that works has got to be
challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now that you understand why there's an initial holdup, let's discuss what has actually been happening in response. What you may have seen in partiality, at least in that last video I showed you, or not the last one, but the one before that, the initial one, there are literally mountains of supplies in Puerto Rico. The problem is that they were sitting at the docks and airports because truck drivers that live in Puerto Rico could not be alerted to their existence. There's no cell service, no power, and barely a means of communication. So while the supplies sit there and there's truck drivers available, they don't know that the supplies are there, and they can't use the equipment that they have to go get it because they just aren't being alerted to it.
Right.
So in the meantime, all this stuff is building up when it could be out there helping people. So one of the relief efforts that's actually going on right now is the Trump administration trying to get helicopters out there to basically airdrop this stuff into the communities.
Sure.
Anyway, for there being roadblocks in policy restrictions, no power, no communication, and pressure from this ridiculous mayor and an uneducated population on the mainland, I would say that President Trump's response has been well above par. But if that's not enough for you, let's discuss how in 9 months in office, President Trump has so far dealt with with administration cabinet change-ups, state wildfires, multiple hurricanes including Harvey that demolished Houston and Irma that demolished Florida, where national resources will continue to be cleaning up and repairing. You can add to that the incident in Charlottesville, as well as Antifa protests and statue teardowns all over the country, marches against him every other week, media, late-night hosts, politicians, celebrities, and citizens actively working against him and tearing him down, and the NFL controversy. As if that's all not enough to take on within 9 months, you also, while trying to respond to the needs of Puerto Rico, have a lunatic fire on a crowd of thousands of people, killing 59 at this point, and wounding over 500. Not that Puerto Rico isn't important, but let's try to put things in a little bit of perspective before shooting your mouth off about how easy it should be for an administration to respond to the situation. As a matter of fact, come up with a plan yourself and try to figure it out and see how easy it truly is.
Right. Not being there, I will say this. Not being on the ground. I've never been to Puerto Rico. I don't know what the infrastructure looks like, just what it's like connected-wise.
Mm-hmm.
I do have some friends who have family there, and, you know, some of them are posting very visceral comments. Others are posting things like, I finally talked to my brother after X amount of days. You know, to give you an idea of what his day was like, he spent 4 hours going around and 4 hours in lines to buy 40 gallons of gasoline, and, you know, it took him another 6 hours to get money out of the bank in order to pay for water and food for his family. And that's the kind of stuff that makes you go, wait, what?
Yeah, and this stuff is just starting.
And
cleanup.
Yeah.
Imagine what happens when people get truly, truly desperate.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they can only take so much of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then other things start happening. And it's the good people that get hurt in those situations.
Yeah, take the food off the shelves. Let's see what happens. And that's basically, you know, unfortunately.
Well, at this point, let's be honest with each other. What more could Trump do?
I don't think he can. He's starting the airdrops.
Yep.
Right? My understanding, just because a friend of mine before I came up here turned me on to a series of interviews between this same mayor and Geraldo Rivera.
Is that the one that you sent me?
Well, that was kind of the last one,
yeah.
But there were others, and one of them was, you know, he shows up there. While he's interviewing, he has his secondary team go out to these stores where they're not, you know, storage areas where they're supposed to be empty, and they're filled. They're filled to the brim.
So it's a lie.
With supplies, and nobody wants to cover it because, you know, now you can't say that the goods aren't there.
Wow.
It's what's wrong with the infrastructure. And I haven't read this article. My friend was, again, same guy who turned me on to those other articles, was telling me that there's some kind of issue between the governor of Puerto Rico and the head of the trucking union. And the trucking union, like, he's quoted after the hurricane basically saying, you guys didn't care about us before the thing happened. Why should we care about you now?
The union leader?
Yeah. And that...
As if my opinion on unions weren't bad enough.
Yeah. It's like, well, he told me that, and I was like, I will try and find that article, because if that's the case, that guy's a monster.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not even...
He's literally letting people die because he wants to make a political statement himself as a union president.
He is angry with one or two things, so let the majority suffer. You know, similar to certain types of political systems that aren't capitalism.
So here's my question, it's a statement directly related to that. If you are this union president, right, and you believe that you have been treated badly in the past, wouldn't now be the perfect time to step up and show what your people could do and why you're worth the money that you're chasing after or the resources spent on you for that? This is like the perfect time to be the heroes in your environment.
Right. Well, so the kind of the last thing that he told me that I hadn't gotten a chance to see was, Geraldo's secondary team then sees a small, like let's call him a box fan. Mm-hmm. Goes into one of the storage areas, starts taking stuff out, and driving off. So they follow it. Where does it end up?
I don't even want to know, do I?
Oh, I think you already know. Supposedly it ended up at her house. Now again...
No way.
Now again, I have not, and I will say this. This was a conversation between me and my friend. He turned me on to some of the links. I have not done all the research yet, so I cannot say if that is 100% accurate or not. But everything else that he has told me about that I have now read about or seen the videos on has been true. So again, I don't know about the union leader's statement, and I don't know about this last part. But if both of those are true, you basically have two monsters who are literally, not figuratively, literally screwing everybody.
Yep.
For personal gain.
Let's play it out for a second here, though.
Uh-huh.
All right. She's doing this, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do the citizens even find out?
Well, they
don't have power. They don't have news sources. She could literally be hoarding this stuff, and no one would know the wiser. Even if the American broadcasting companies would cover it, which they probably wouldn't.
Right.
No one would know.
Right. Well, I mean, she can, if she's
you bank on that if you're her.
If she's broadcasting and she's, the government at this point is going to most likely control those broadcasts with an iron fist because, only the pertinent information gets out there. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to hear about, I forget her name, but that
Cruz.
she's got 4 cases of water per person in her house and all the medical supplies that she can take when your grandmother and grandfather are now...
I honestly hope that's a hoax.
So do I. I was driving over here. I was thinking about that more and more, and it was turning my stomach because if that's the case, I mean, you've got monsters?
Well, it might not be too far off, because here's the next part. To top things off in regards to the Democratic mayor of Puerto Rico, she has admitted to not meeting with federal officials at Joint Field Office over hurricane relief efforts. So it actually turns out that Cruz is not in the loop and hasn't even bothered to participate in meetings with officials from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA. Or other federal agencies. In a Sunday morning interview with George Stephanopoulos, for ABC's This Week, the former Clinton press secretary grilled Cruz on what she's been up to since Hurricane Maria hit. He said, the president's FEMA director is suggesting you're not really plugged in. Yesterday, he said you need to make your way to the Joint Field Office and get plugged into what's going on. Have you been to the Joint Field Office? And if not, why not? She said, well, number one, I got a call from the White House a couple days ago. I think it was Thursday. Mr. Bossert took it upon himself to call, and I was very glad that he called. He seemed to be a very action-prone, a guy that does what he says and says what he does. So we got appointed a FEMA coordinator. We have 2 people that are appointed to San Juan. We are the capital city, the largest city in Puerto Rico, with the most amount of population, and we got appointed just direct links. So actually, I was in FEMA the couple of days afterwards when they were at the San Juan Marriott. I was invited to stay. I was invited to visit, and we have been communicating ever since. Things have to be done in a sustained manner. If I only get for a population of 350,000, or perhaps half of them are in need of food and water, sustained supplies, then, I get 4 pallets of food, 3 pallets of water. That's really not going to provide for a dent. The supply chain of aid has to be sustained, and we have the logistics in order to do that. So Stephanopoulos said, will you meet with them? Cruz said, people from my administration have been to the yes. So this woman has not even gone to these
So
things. She's completely disconnected, but bitching like no other, printing off T-shirts, and possibly now stealing supplies from the people.
If you're not willing to put in the work, shut up.
But that's not what my
way.
liberal friends are saying. They're saying that she's the hardest working person down there, and she's the voice of the people of Puerto Rico.
Yeah. You know, Castro was the voice of the Cuban people for years.
Yeah, so was Chavez.
Yeah.
Or no,
no, that's Venezuela.
Yeah, no. But he was too. The guy that everybody Che Guevara.
Yeah.
That if you wear a T-shirt with him on it, you have to be one of the biggest idiots out there. This is a guy who literally had a hole
so he could
watch executions of the people. Because he got a kick out of it.
Yeah. But he's a hero.
Mm-hmm. So FEMA Administrator Brock Long, sounds like a name from a certain type of movie, told CNN on Saturday that Cruz hasn't connected with the FEMA command center established to coordinate relief efforts. So this is another person saying that she hasn't. The mayor of... You want to attempt that one?
Guaynabo,
yeah.
Guaynabo?
Angel Perez, meanwhile, said in an interview with the Daily Caller that his experience with the federal government has been different from Cruz's. So this is the mayor of another city. In part because, unlike Cruz, he has been participating in meetings with officials from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, and other federal agencies. So this guy is saying...
I'm meeting with them and it's working out well.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
So meanwhile, the progressive Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders has complained on CNN Sunday that Donald Trump was ignoring Hurricane Maria's victims in Puerto Rico. Are you reading this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I can't quiz you on it.
Because I didn't read the bullet points.
Because the president was struggling with what?
Racism.
Yeah, he's a racist. That's why he's not going down there and helping out. So he said, should I attempt a mic here?
Mm-hmm.
Given the president... No, I can't do it. Forget. Given the president's history on race, given the fact that he, a few months ago, said there were good people on both sides when neo-Nazis were marching in Charlottesville, yeah, I think he might have a right to be... we might have a right to be suspect that he is treating the people in Puerto Rico in a different way than he has treated the people of Texas or Florida. Sanders went on to note that Puerto Rico's residents are citizens of the United States and that they are entitled to the same degree of care as any other U.S. resident. To which I say being entitled to the same degree of care does not translate to actually obtaining the same degree of care if the environment and circumstances of those being compared are not comparable. This is a freaking island. You can't have... listen... If I send down 20 semi-trucks of supplies to Houston, Texas, I can't do that to Puerto Rico.
No. Well, I mean, you get the ships to the port. You get the port.
It's not going to get there as fast.
Yeah. Well, I agree, but
so that's not comparable, right?
No, it's not comparable. But
that's what people don't get.
Yeah. Well, they it sounds like a lot of people wished or live in hindsight and say, oh, well, we should have had these boats ready to go then. Well, you don't know what a hurricane
everybody wants to be
a
Monday morning quarterback until the ratings are down.
Yeah. Stop.
So we've ripped on the mayor now, okay?
Yeah.
To be fair, Trump didn't exactly help his own cause with some of the statements and things that he was doing either. Yeah, we'll get to that.
Are you doing that?
This is it. This is it. No, we're going to get right to that right now.
Good.
So let's take a look at one of his incidents down in Puerto Rico. Hey!
From the 3-line. Nothing but net. Oh, God.
This is all about PR here, right? You're just not doing yourself any favors by treating it like a concert.
PT, paper towels.
Give him a little bit of credit. It could have been better. He could have been out there with one of those air cannons from like a
That's pretty
baseball.
much what...
Where you at? Over there?
No. So a few of my friends and I have had some fun with this. And there are a couple really, really great memes, GIFs, and Photoshop videos. So one of them is of him doing that, but he is wearing Larry Bird's jersey and he's draining three-pointers. I've seen just the still, and it's the Michael Jordan reach out dunk, but it's him with the paper towel. I mean, some of them are actually really, really funny, and I wish I had sent them to you ahead of time.
So you think that's funny?
Oh, those are, yeah.
I mean, what he did is a bad PR move.
Yeah, well, no, what he did was awful. Well, I mean, legitimately not. You want to give people paper towels, fine.
Yeah.
Don't throw them at people.
Have you seen his comments on the island?
No. Dear God, no.
This is...
Am I going to be...
This is even better, I think.
All appropriate departments of our government, from Homeland Security to Defense, are engaged fully in the disaster and the response and recovery effort probably has never been seen for something like this. This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water.
Just to be sure that you understand me, it's big water, not small water. Big water.
Big water?
It's salty. So don't get me wrong, it's not taffy. Okay? It's not surrounded by Jell-O. It's water.
But it's the quicker
ocean
picker. He brought the quicker picker upper.
Yeah. We have a plan. It's a great plan. With all these paper towels, we're just going to soak up the ocean and drive these semi-trucks right onto the island. Let's go. Everybody get involved.
Yeah.
Just in case you didn't know, islands are surrounded by water.
Right. And I also understand that if you put all of the supplies on one side of the island, it might tip over.
Yeah. Where's Hank Johnson when you need him?
I don't know, but it's still...
Did I inform you about that?
No, actually, my dad told me about that a while ago, and then you brought it up. I don't know if you brought it up on the podcast I was here, or if it was someone else, but whatever it was, I had completely forgotten about it. And you played the clip.
Yes.
And I heard the first, 3 words, and I knew what it was. And I sometimes listen while I'm at work. It's not a good thing to just randomly be sitting in a cubicle and start laughing hysterically when no one else can hear what you're listening to.
Democrat from where? Do you remember?
No.
But, yeah, so Hank Johnson is a Democratic senator, I think it is, or congressman.
Yeah, something.
But he said he's talking to a commander who should be given a freaking award for dealing with this. And Hank Johnson's like, our concerns are that if you send over our military personnel and they're gathered on one side of the island, that the island might tip over and capsize. And the military commander's like, sits there for a second. We don't anticipate that happening, and just calmly addresses it.
You know what he was doing? He was going, don't laugh.
I want to see an interview with this guy on his thoughts after the fact.
Yeah.
Oh, my word. That was one of the best clips of all time.
Yes.
So San Juan's mayor, Carmen Yulin Cruz, has responded to Trump, calling her nasty by wearing a T-shirt emblazoned with the word. So this was in subsequent interviews as well, that Mrs. Cruz wore the shirt during an interview in which she attacked the president for his visit to Puerto Rico after their U.S. territory was devastated by the hurricane. She said, what is really nasty is that anyone would turn their back on the Puerto Rican people. Trump has twice used the word nasty to describe Cruz, the first time in a tweet over the weekend and the second time in a TV interview. I would hope that the President of the United States stops spouting out comments to hurt the people of Puerto Rico.
Or just you.
Yeah. Rather than commander-in-chief, he sort of becomes miscommunicator-in-chief. Well, my advice to her is lead by example.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're upset with his childish antics, what does the T-shirt say about you?
Yeah.
What does it say that you aren't even going to these meetings with FEMA officials when you say that you're in the thick of it?
You can't be bothered to do the work, but
you'll put on a hell of a show for the cameras that you're doing the work.
Yeah, well, that's important.
She's nasty.
I didn't say it.
I'm on a roll. That's 2 for 2 right now. Yep. Okay.
She's going to start talking about routes soon.
Yeah, Navy routes.
Yeah.
And everything. No, she can't talk about that. She's a woman. Tonight's main topic is, so it's obviously the worst kind of story that we could be talking about.
Yeah.
That's why I save all the funny topics for first. Unfortunately, we're going to end on this one, but there's a lot to be said, a lot to go over. It's about the worst mass shooting in modern American history.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go over what happened first. New details from investigators here show that gunman Stephen Paddock had planned out the Mandalay Bay massacre meticulously for months. Paddock fired from his 32nd floor room in the Mandalay Bay hotel suite at a Jason Aldean concert across the Vegas Strip, attended by over 22,000 concert goers. Paddock was using modified rifles with bump stocks installed that mimicked the actions of an automatic rifle. A new assessment of casualties keeps the death toll at 58 plus the gunman, so 59. But the number of injuries has been revised down because of earlier miscounts. So the number is now actually 489, which is just still terrible.
Right.
Paddock was a millionaire, and I'm getting different accounts on this. Some are saying that he was a real estate investor. Others are saying he was a type of accountant.
So I'll be honest with you. When it comes to mass shootings,
yeah,
a lot of people go to the shooter.
Mm-hmm.
I choose not to. I didn't know his name.
Yeah.
Until now.
Yeah, I forget it after I say it. That's why I wrote it down.
I choose not to
give him credit.
Right.
Yep. I understand where you're coming from.
You have to be so broken.
Mm-hmm.
So extremely broken, beyond anything I can comprehend, to do anything like this. So I know nothing about the man. He's
okay.
The fact that he's a millionaire, whatever.
It's crazy. I'm just going to give these details because in subsequent, someone listening down the line years later or whatever it is,
Right.
like they know what we're exactly talking about. Just not just a shooting, but this shooting. So, so I have down here that he's a real estate investor, and everyone seems shocked. He would do this despite the fact that he has amassed weapons over the course of years, totaling now near 90 plus at all his residential homes, according to some reports. He supposedly did not hold any specific religious or political stances, so far as the media has found so far, but the investigation is still ongoing. Trump, I think, actually gave a great presidential address on the Vegas situation. He could always use some work on his delivery, obviously, but the message was spot on. It's a little long, so I was going to play it tonight, but with everything else that we're going through, it's too long. Just go look it up. I think it was a great response to
Agreed.
it. And to be honest with you, I wasn't expecting something like that. I was expecting some half-ass remark.
I was very concerned that it was going to come via tweet.
Yeah.
And,
good point.
I mean, I woke up like many people on Monday morning. Now I wake up at 5 a.m., so I'm up early, and so I turn on the news and I open my phone just like I'm sure everybody else does. My dogs are eating. I'm getting ready to go for a walk, and breaking news comes up, and that's what I'm looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And I at first I wasn't thinking anything about him. I was thinking about the people, how awful. And, on the walk, you get to think about all the extra stuff. It's about a 45-minute walk. And, listening to a podcast, not this podcast at that time, it popped in my head because whatever I was listening to said something about the president. And my exact thought was, don't be a tweet.
Yeah.
Dear God, don't be a tweet. So I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. So in case you were wondering what the alternative to the current president would have said had she assumed office, Hillary Clinton put on social media, Facebook specifically, Las Vegas, we are grieving with you. The victims, those who lost loved ones, the responders, and all affected by this cold-blooded massacre. The crowd fled at the sound of gunshots. Imagine the deaths if the shooter had a silencer, which the NRA wants to make easier to get. Our grief isn't enough. We can and must put politics aside, stand up to the NRA, and work together to stop this from happening again. So, I've said that I think that there's a mass misunderstanding on what the NRA actually is. Okay? The way that Hillary Clinton talks about the NRA and other things is like they're an arm of the government that has this like ATF.
Sure.
Right? That they are literally out on the streets handing guns to people. That's the way these people do it. It's an organization of members that support the Second Amendment.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
They talk about supporting the right to own a firearm. That's it.
It's a lobbyist.
Yes.
That's it.
That is it.
So
they are words. There's money behind the words, but they're words.
Right.
I know where you're going. She politicized this right off the bat in a statement and said that she wants to put politics aside, but then attacks the NRA in a statement about the victims.
So there's a lot of I could sit here for the next hour and deconstruct just this.
That. Yes.
So I'm just going to repeat this. Las Vegas, we are grieving with you. The victims, those we've lost, those who lost loved ones, the responders, and all affected by this cold-blooded massacre.
That's it.
Had she stopped there.
Yep, it would have been okay.
Perfect. Sorry you're not the... No, I'm not sorry you're not the president. It is what it is. But you did the right thing to that point. After that, there was no point. Everything else that you did was doing that stupid, that I want my agenda pushed, so now I'm going to strike because I think the iron is hot. And there are so many little things, but one of the things that pisses me off about anti-gun people in general is about silencers. Oh, it's an evil silencer. You never hear a silencer. That's not how they work. That's movies. It's just not how they work. Like I said, I repeated this time and time again on the last podcast I was on. Do your research.
Yep.
Movies have you take this magic thing.
That's it. Yeah.
I'm shooting a machine gun. That's not how it works.
No, it's not at all.
It's just not. Look.
It muffles a sound, but it does not. It's still loud.
You still hear it.
Yeah.
You still hear it. Imagine if the guy had a silencer. Shut.
Yep, I gotcha.
Just, what happened? Well, crap like this.
Yeah.
Crap like this. You're. Yeah. So, I'm done with that.
Yep. Let's
that
move on.
comment. Let's move.
We'll just keep on going with some of these comments.
Oh God!
If you were wondering how bad some other responses could get from individuals, look no further than the former CBS legal executive Haley Geftman Gold, who was fired for saying this on her social media. If they wouldn't do anything when children were murdered, I have no hope that the repugs will ever do the right thing. I'm actually not even sympathetic because country music fans often are Republican gun toters.
And she got fired for it?
Yeah.
Good. Good.
I'm not one to troll people to get them fired from their jobs, but I mean, if that you're representing your company at a high level there.
Yeah. No.
So essentially what she's saying is country music fans, which is also feeding into, look, we don't know the details on what's going on and why he fired into this crowd and everything.
Right.
But on the surface, I'm just going to make an assumption here. This isn't fact, okay? But my assumption is you're firing on a crowd of country music goers, and she is right about this. There are probably a lot of Republicans in there, right? And if this turns out to be politically motivated, which they're saying he took no political stances, but let's just say it comes out that they find stuff in relation to Antifa or something like that, right? This comes after the congressional baseball game shooting where the guy opened fire on the Republican members of Congress.
Yeah, he was a lefty.
Bernie Sanders supporter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's amazing.
So we don't know yet. That's an assumption on my part, and I'm fully admitting that. I don't think that's fact, but we don't know yet. And that's the problem with all this other stuff going on, is that a lot of people are making assumptions before the facts come out. And that's why you end up with so many conspiracy theories and everything else, that there's multiple shooters, that, you know, that they were automatic rifles. Not true. They weren't automatic. It was a modification to the gun.
Do you know what a bump stock is?
Yeah, as it hits your shoulder hard, it pulls the trigger again.
Yeah, it's basically an extension around, like a housing around the triggers. So when so it simulates automatic gunfire,
yes.
But it's not automatic gunfire technically.
That's a blurry line.
You want to get into that right now?
Let's do that when we get to gun laws.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Because I didn't look at anything, so I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
But I have some other stuff about stuff like that.
So she got fired.
Good.
Yep. How about famed evolutionist and anti-creationist, anti-religious atheist superstar Richard Dawkins? Did you hear about what he tweeted?
No.
Dern tootin', great shootin', cool dude certain he's Second Amendment rots. Hell yeah, every country has its psychopaths. In U.S., they have guns. What this comes down to is the absolute arrogance of people trying to... He's offending a lot of people, Second Amendment supporters, making assumptions on the type of people that Republicans are and gun advocates are. And he doesn't even care. He's joking around about his situation, basically.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't even care. You want to make fun of me because I support the Second Amendment? Fine.
Exactly.
58 people died. Not going to war.
Yep.
Not being part of gang violence, not committing suicide. They went to a concert.
Yep.
They were sons and daughters, brothers, sisters, parents. What the hell is wrong with someone that they're going to come out and make a joke? Like, poor taste is one thing. You should be hit by a Mack truck.
Well, what happens to him, though? Nothing. As far as he's concerned.
Because he's got his First Amendment rights.
No, because, what I'm saying is he's an atheist. I mean, that's what he's most well known for. So if he gets hit by a truck, nothing happens anyway.
We should find out. Let's test this theory.
I actually said in my original post on Facebook, I have actually, I've seen some of the things he said about Christians and how stupid they are and everything, and I've actually sat there and prayed for this guy to somehow come to Christ eventually.
Oh, he'll meet Christ. He'll probably be...
Look, if you're saying this kind of stuff, you don't have a soul to save in the first place.
I've read some bad jokes about this.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
And this is... I'm tearing up because I am so angry at the moment. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, it's horrible.
I really want to start cursing.
I know you do. I'm holding you back. Sorry.
No. I understand.
I don't have time to edit in beeps this weekend.
Well, I understand.
I got my family.
I understand why. I mean, you're making so much money off this that you gotta watch your mouth. That is. I mean, that's some low. That's some happy. Oh God.
Yeah. So always keeping it classy and low key, Dawkins. Everyone's favorite impossible to hug loser, Michael Moore, also chimed in.
What a bag. With
his own ideas on gun control. I'm going to try to go through this as fast as possible, and then we'll kind of comment on it. Because he wrote a lot.
Holy.
Maybe I shouldn't.
No.
Yeah. Should I?
Yeah.
All right, well, I'll try to go through it as fast as possible. My proposal to repeal the Second Amendment and replace it with this. Proposed 28th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. A well-regulated state National Guard being helpful to the safety and security of a state in times of need, along with the strictly regulated right of the people to keep and bear a limited number of non-automatic arms for sport and hunting, with respect to the primary right of all people to be free from gun violence. This shall not be infringed. So, going through here, here you go. As over 90% of gun violence is committed by men, in order for a man to purchase a gun, he must first get a waiver from his current wife, plus his most recent ex-wife, or any woman with whom he is currently in a relationship. If he's gay, he must get the waiver from his male spouse or partner. This law has greatly reduced most spousal domestic gun murders in Canada. Guess what? That's not a law in Canada. So he's completely BSing people there. All automatic and semi-automatic guns are banned. All automatic guns are technically banned. You have to go through. I think if you want a machine gun or something like that,
it's a Class 3 license.
Yeah, and it's damn near impossible to get.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Well, I mean, there's I forget the name of the act, but it was 1986. No, there's a 1986 one. So until I guess the mid 1980s. I want to say 1980s. I could be wrong on the year. You could actually own an automatic firearm. So you had that right at that point. I'm not sure what happened, but some bill was passed, and clearly you can no longer buy, or you have to go through extremes to be able to own. And one of the things that I understand about a Class 3 license is you basically give up your right to search and seizure.
They can do it anytime.
Yeah, they can just show up and say, hey, let's take a look at your firearms. Mm-hmm. And you have to comply, or you lose your Class 3, meaning you lose your automatic weapons.
Yep. Okay.
So there's things like that. But
so semi-automatic guns are banned too. That basically leaves you with what? Revolvers?
I mean, yeah, sure.
I mean, pistols would fall under that category too.
Well, I mean, semi-auto. You're going to have single action. You'll have double action. You'll have single, like a rack and crack gun. Mm-hmm. Okay.
No gun or clip can hold more than 6 bullets.
Magazine. If you're gonna criticize right.
Yeah. To activate a gun for it to be used, the trigger must recognize the fingerprint of its registered owner. This will eliminate most crimes committed with a gun, as 80% of these crimes are done with a stolen gun.
Okay. So like in Judge Dredd?
Yeah, basically. Good reference.
I mean,
I hear that this fingerprint technology is still not that good.
I mean, I wouldn't be against something like that eventually, but I can tell you that on my iPhone, I have my thumbprints on there, and most of the time it doesn't register that. Mm-hmm. So I still have my 4-digit code.
And you probably paid more for your phone than your personal sidearm. Or the phone's worth more?
Yeah, but the phone is definitely worth more.
Yeah.
And I use it more often.
Yeah. And it has more technology packed into it, that's for sure.
And I carry it with me everywhere, whereas I don't carry my firearms with me everywhere. Well, I actually don't carry. Let me say this: I do carry my phone everywhere with me because I go to the bathroom with my phone, and I go to work with my phone, and I am not allowed to bring firearms to work. So,
Gotcha.
So they don't come anywhere near my office.
Yeah.
So there's that. But yeah, other than that, they're pretty much on me 24/7.
Oh, yeah, you're going to love this one. One's guns must be stored at a licensed gun club or government-regulated gun storage facility. Believing that having a gun in your home provides you with protection is an American myth. People who die from a home invasion make up a sad but minuscule 0.04% of all gun murders in the U.S., and over a third of them are killed by their own gun that the criminal has either stolen or wrestled from them.
So I'm not sure about the number, the 0.04 number, but I know, so I've done research in the past on, gun violence, because this is an ongoing conversation,
Oh, yeah.
and if you want to be part of the conversation, you should be educated. The home invasion, the homeowner being injured or killed in a home invasion is normally done, or is majority done by the perpetrator's gun, but there is a high number. It's not a small number. I don't remember if it's a third or not.
Let me read that exact part again, because that's a point that I wanted to make. I think what you're trying to say. People who die from a home invasion make up a sad but minuscule 0.04% of all gun murders in the U.S. It's probably low because they got a shot off, or at least warned the would-be perpetrator out of the house with their firearm.
If I go into a home to break into a home to do harm or steal, and I hear someone rack a shotgun, after crapping my pants, I am running. But right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
I mean,
well, first of all, I wouldn't put myself in that situation.
Right. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But
well, we don't assume on this show.
True.
You should get that by now.
True. I'm just saying, if I ever, for whatever reason, decided to do that, if I heard a shotgun rack, I reckon it's a discernible noise. Even non-gun owners know what it sounds like. You're getting out of Dodge. So yeah, that I understand.
There's a lot more that you could find if you actually want to hear any more asinine comments from Michael Moore. Just go to his Facebook page, and that is a long response.
You were scrolling through a solid page and a half of extra garbage.
Garbage, exactly right. So before we get into some talk on the Second Amendment, let's hear from some more reasonable voices that aren't flying off the handle and reacting out of emotion and not common sense. First, we have Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin. So let's take a look at what he said.
There has, from the beginning of time, been people who have perpetrated evil. And there's no amount of rules or laws. I mean, for those who think that gun control would have prevented this, we already have laws against murder. This is a person who murdered 58 people, last I knew, hundreds wounded. There are laws against all those things. So the idea that one more law would have precluded this person from doing this is an asinine comment. It really is, and I've heard it from so many people. And for those who are trying to politicize this, I think it's a shame. This is a time when our nation, understandably, has been rocked by this. And I think it's an opportunity for us to come together and talk about why the divisiveness is so celebrated by so many for sometimes no good reason. We need to be more united.
I absolutely agree with everything he said.
Yep. Yeah. I don't think there's really that much else to say. I mean, he's one of the main points he said was we are celebrating the divisiveness.
Yeah.
Oh, you're anti-Second Amendment? I'm for the Second Amendment. Let's freaking fight about it. You know, in the meantime, families are mourning the losses of their loved ones, and people are recovering in the hospital. To be honest with you, you know whose opinion I want to hear? Those people's opinions.
Yeah.
If anyone, first of all, I think that our constitutional rights supersede any of the opinions of anybody because they were put in place for a reason. But if I'm going to listen to someone opine on a right that has an effect on people, I want to hear from the people that it affected. So I'd be interested in the coming days to hear the opinions of those that were wounded at this concert.
There are interviews with concert goers.
Yeah.
Not so many. I haven't found any of the wounded yet.
The only one I saw was the one that President Trump visited.
Walked
and he got
in
out
the
of
hospital. Yeah,
he got out of bed.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
That was. I mean,
and then he was
good for him.
Yeah.
And he said something along the lines of, "I don't care if I've been shot. If the president comes in, I'm standing."
Yeah. No matter who it is.
Yeah. No. So the things that I've seen. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the same couple photos. I've
been watching a lot of videos of the concert.
There's it's
crazy.
There's the one photo that, eventually this guy will be found, but he's standing there, he's got a beer in one hand and he's in his tank top, and he's literally just giving the old single finger salute to the shooter.
While everyone else is ducking down.
While everyone else is running. You can't fix stupid, but that guy's about to be super famous if he's...
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's a ballsy move, man. I've read some accounts where, I read a really awful one today, and I don't know why I decided to read it. It was two sisters, the one's husband and the other's boyfriend took the trip to Vegas for the sister who died, her birthday, and the boyfriend had confided in the other sister and the husband that he was planning on proposing.
I heard about that.
So I read that article, and that was awful. And then I read one about a nurse who went to the hospital or rode to the hospital with a Canadian. So a concert goer came down, another one of the victims, and basically sat there, no idea who this person is, and just, sat with this person until they passed. And that's the thing that I think you're going to hear a lot of, is when tragedy strikes, yeah, you see the worst in people, in guys like that Dawkins. Almost said it. Almost said it. But you also see the best in people, and I think that...
I have two stories on that.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Next up is a guy on Facebook, just some random guy that had some pretty amazing insight into this situation. So his name is Damon Richhart, and as far as I know, I don't think he's anyone famous at all.
Okay.
But he wrote this post: "Bad guys do bad things." Bad guys do bad guy things. Someone once told me that. Fundamentally, it is the only truth. Everyone is running around trying to create meanings about everything that happened. The same old stuff is popping up. Guns, religion, race, but here's the fact. A guy used a gun, or guns, to terrorize a bunch of people. He killed 59 and wounded 500 plus last I saw. There were 22,000 people at that concert, several of which are very close friends. So while people sit around and blame guns, think about this. A guy who shot into a crowd for roughly 15 minutes only managed to kill 0.2% of the attendees and only managed to wound 2.6% of the attendees. So as a local to Las Vegas who had some of his best friends at that concert, I'm so very thankful the bad guy doing bad guy things chose to use a gun as his tool of terror and not something more drastic like a bomb. You can stop someone hell-bent. You cannot stop someone hell-bent on an outcome just because you make them choose from a different set of tools. Fighting and division between Americans is never the answer. United in love, anything is possible. Divided in ignorance is a downward spiral.
It's well put.
Yeah.
It's very well put.
Yeah. Now, to me, one of the points I wanted to bring up about this is the fact that you're talking about a concert of 22,000 people. Now, like I said, I did watch some of the videos of cell phone video coverage from people in the crowd, right? The first one that I watched was pretty intense. It was a front row person holding their phone on Jason Aldean. And you can hear the gunfire in the background. No one really knew what was going on. And Jason's still singing. And then all of a sudden he realizes what's going on. He gets the hell out of Dodge.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And then they turn around and they're looking around for what's going on. And they sweep across with the video of the field, right? And all these people have ducked down or laid down on the ground, okay? If you look at these videos, and you don't have to, I just want to describe it to you so you don't have to see it, they have become a mass target by laying down. Now they are literally all covering the ground and each other, and you can shoot and not miss anyone.
Yeah.
So, but I also said to a friend, too, that sent me this post that was written, I said, had they all run in different directions, it could have killed more people. It could have been a stampede over each other and killed more people.
Right.
So it's a horrible situation. There was really, I don't know what the best course of action would really be to shoot off in the four directions according to which end of the field you were closest to or whatever.
Sure.
But here's the thing. Going back to what this guy said, knowing after what I said about the video that it became a mass blob on the field to just shoot at, 0.2% of those people were killed. He was literally spraying bullets down into this crowd with the potential to hit a new person with every shot with ease. You didn't even have to aim, right? 0.2%. 2.6% were wounded. For me, that's the hand of God right there. Okay? Now, people would also say in an argument against that, well, if there was a God, how could he let something like this happen? Look, evil is the opposite of God. Yeah. Evil happens, and I think personally God was out there protecting a lot of those people. Now, that's a hard pill to swallow when you think of the lives that were lost and why didn't he protect them?
Sure.
I don't know. Those are answers that we will never know in this lifetime.
Correct.
You know what I mean? But going off of that, I also have another video of someone that was interviewed that I found really interesting. This guy claims to be an agnostic and was interviewed here.
Once my sister and I, we started running to the left, and every time they shot, we took cover because, you don't want to be the one guy who's just standing up running, because for all we knew, that would just make us a target. But my sister, being as noble as she is, she actually threw herself on top of me and was saying, "I love you, Taylor, I love you." And I'll never forget that. But we didn't know we were safe until, like, we were sitting in the McCarran, one of their hangars almost. A car almost ran through the gate just to get on the runway, just to get away from that location. Because as far as we knew, there was multiple gunners, and we didn't know which direction they were coming from, and the employees at the time weren't letting us in because they didn't know what was going on. But even an hour and 30 minutes, I didn't even know if I was safe.
You said you believed the gunfire was coming from the Mandalay Bay. Did you have any sense, and it can be very hard to tell this kind of thing, did you have any sense it was coming from above, from the 32nd floor?
A part of me did, just because of the vantage point he must have had to get some of the shots that I've seen, because there was a tent, and if it were on this side and I took cover here, there were still bodies on that side of people just laying in pools of blood. And I still didn't even know if that was safe or not, but it's kind of a fight or flight situation. You just got to take it to God at that point and hope that you can make it and hope that you're safe. And I know I can't speak for everyone, but for me, I'm just, I was agnostic going into that concert, and I'm a firm believer in God now, because there's no way that, all that happened and that I made it, and I was blessed enough to still be here alive talking to you today.
That's pretty amazing.
Pretty powerful.
I mean, that's his own testimony of being turned around at a concert that wasn't even a Christian concert or anything.
Sure.
It was a horrible incident, but
yeah,
that's pretty crazy. It's awesome for him, in a very dark time.
Yeah.
And I hope he pursues and finds more answers to some of the things that he's asking.
The light shines brightness in the dark, right?
Yeah. So, do you know who...
Yeah.
Are you not a fan of him?
No.
Dan Bilzerian, who is known as the king of Instagram, was at the concert when the shooter opened fire. He's known for his love for guns, as well as women, that's for sure. And he frequently posts about his collection on Instagram. So you're probably not going to like what he had to say here, but he told people about his firsthand experience on Sunday night. He said, "We were on stage when the gunfire started. It sounded like firecrackers, which is what it sounds like when supersonic bullets are flying over your head." Bilzerian then saw a woman on the ground who was dead and said in a video posted to his 23 million followers, "F, this girl just got shot in the effing head." Bilzerian got into his van, delivered a different woman who was severely injured to the hospital, then headed back to the scene with a gun ready to take on the shooter. Not that there was much he could do, but the shooter was dead by the time he had actually gotten back to the scene. So, it does say something to actually head back to the scene, though.
So,
but if you think that you're going to be going lone wolf on a dude,
here's the things that I know about this guy. He's a trust fund kid. He is a former Marine.
Is he?
He's something. I know he tried out for the Navy. Like he went through SEAL training and dropped out.
Okay.
I read that somewhere.
I know he's a poker player too.
So he's
not that has anything to do with military.
If he was in SEAL training, he has to be some form of military. So he has to be what people thought would have at least been good enough to be considered for that elite role.
Mm-hmm.
Going back, good for him. Yeah. That again, kind of like the dude with the middle finger. It's ballsy. You don't know what you're going back into.
Yep.
Getting strapped up. Okay. I'm sure he didn't realize at that time that the shooter was on the 32nd floor.
Yeah, how could you know? I mean, some of the videos that I watched, they eventually focused on the flash fire.
Sure.
But it took a while for them to understand what was really going on, even.
If he had a van, one of the things I probably, Monday morning quarterback-ish, if I have the intestinal fortitude, if I'm ever in this situation, to take one person to the hospital and then have a van at my disposal, I'm not going to waste time going for my gun. I'm going to waste my time going back and grabbing people and trying to get them out of harm's way.
Yep.
And again, I don't know what my reaction would be.
Yeah.
Again, it would probably be very similar to what we were talking about with Michael Myers earlier.
Yeah. So speaking of heroes, Taylor Winston, a 29-year-old Marine veteran, and if my buddy and client Jack is watching, you're never a veteran if you're a Marine. You're always a Marine. So
I've heard that.
He stole a truck to rescue 30 Vegas victims.
I read about this.
Awesome story.
Yeah.
Now,
the text.
When
did you see the?
I ain't going to the text because you can talk about that if you want after this.
It's pretty fun.
But to me, this is a story that feeds into faith, in my mind. Okay?
I agree.
So, having met up with friends near the concert stage, Taylor and his girlfriend Jen Lewis had just begun dancing when chaos broke out. People started scattering and screaming, and that's when we knew something real was happening, Taylor recalls. With nowhere to run due to the venue's fenced-in setup, Taylor, Jen, and thousands of others had no choice but to get to the other side. The shots got louder and louder, closer to us, and saw people getting hit. It was like we could be hit any second, Taylor said. Once we got to the fence, I helped throw a bunch of people over and got myself over. It was a mini war zone, but we couldn't fight back. I saw a field with a bunch of white trucks. I tested my luck to see if any of them had keys in it. First one we tried opening had keys sitting right there. I started looking for people to take to the hospital. There was just too many, and it was overwhelming how much blood was everywhere. One by one, injured victims packed themselves into the back seat and the truck bed before Taylor rushed them to the hospital in the stolen vehicle. Once we dropped them off, we were like, well, let's go back for round 2 and get some more, he said. Dude, I'm tearing up on this, because how do you go out into a parking lot at a concert with thousands of people?
Yeah.
And the first emergency ready vehicle that you come to has the effing keys laying in it.
Right.
Tell me that's not the hand of God at work in this situation.
There is something to be said about divine intervention and being in the right place at the right time, however you want to look at it. You know, you choose to believe that it's God's hand at work. I tend to agree with that. When I saw this, because there were some tweets. There was actually the owner of the truck and this guy actually exchanged some tweets or back and forth, or text messages back and forth. I'm sorry, I'm exhausted. Back and forth where, because he held on to the truck or the truck keys. He brought the truck someplace and was able to somehow find the guy's telephone number and text him and just said, hey, your truck's here. And when the guy went to go get his truck, he realized no keys. So he texts him and he goes, do you still have my keys? He's like, yeah, I have your keys. I also have your toolbox, which is one of those big toolboxes in the back. He's like, we wanted to make sure that we got everything for you. So we have everything. We can meet up. And it was, again, it's the beauty of humanity coming out in people. And that is, if you don't believe in a physical representation of God, I think this is the closest thing that you will ever see. Yeah.
It's a miracle.
Is, people displaying the best of humanity, however you want to look at it. God's will, divine intervention, right place, right time. You take your pick. But
once you understand miracles, you don't see coincidences anymore.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely not. I can't remember the last time I went, well, that's a coincidence. Or,
right.
I can't remember the last time I did that.
Well, Obi-Wan says there are no coincidences.
Star Wars. I don't want to get off track. I don't want to bring up something else, but remind me about that after this story.
Sure.
Okay? So, here we go. Jimmy Kimmel took to his show's monologue to take on the Second Amendment advocates in a very emotional state while spouting off some pretty egregious outright lies that the public absolutely fed on. I can't possibly do as good of a job as Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder did on their video takedowns of the Kimmel monologue, but I would encourage you to go watch them because they take it piece by piece and just rip it apart. Not in a mean way. It's just that they're spotlighting outright lies that he's telling, But, and I would have played the video, but I'm afraid that it would be another blocked YouTube video.
And then you wouldn't get all that cash money.
No, cash money. But Kimmel said a couple things I wanted to spotlight here and that I want to address. He said, we can't understand why a human being would ever do something like this to another human being. Well, it's pretty easy to tackle because our heart is absolutely filled with evil and hatred, okay? And those people do evil things. No matter what the tools he would have chosen, he was hell-bent on killing as many people as possible. And like that other guy said on Facebook, you can't change the decision of someone that is hell-bent on doing something just by changing the tool set that they use.
Right.
Kimmel also said this was because of, quote, one person with a violent and insane voice in his head, and directly related this to mental illness. The investigation details on this aren't even clear yet. Certainly not the day after the shooting when Kimmel taped this, but he was jumping ahead of the media curve to tackle with an often used line of attack in regards to mental illness. This is always one of the arguments for gun control, right, is mental illness. What about the people that are mentally ill? Well, I'm going to tackle that here in a second. I've talked about this before and the dangers of going down this road of mental illness and allowing government officials or their influence to determine what is or isn't mental illness. Would someone who is depressed for a short period of time after a divorce that ends up finding love again be banned from owning weapons because of a doctor visit for temporary depression? Who hasn't at one time or another been depressed about things? But I guess that is the ultimate goal in the argument of taking away guns. Is, hey, we all go through mental states, so no one should have guns. That's the ultimate goal.
So I'm going to ask you a quick question. Do you have anything on Australia?
I know stuff. Not in here, but I have some stuff on. I know some stuff on Australia.
So after a mass shooting in the mid-'90s in Australia, all high-powered semi-auto and automatic weapons were banned in Australia. I bring that up because one of the things that they said, very similar to the U.S., where in the U.S. we still have these weapons, the highest rate in the gun violence deaths, astronomically, by far, more than anything else, is suicide. So, taking the guns away, you would think in Australia, well, you've taken the guns out of the people's hands, suicide must have gone down. There's a show called 1,000 Ways to Die because, firearms are one. Suicide rate has not dropped. It's stayed stagnant over the past couple years. I didn't go through all of the research, but I just wanted to see, did it increase like the U.S. from the mid-'90s to now? And the answer is yes. But again, you're talking significant populace increases, complete economic disasters. Those things happen. In this case, taking away the gun, you're not going to stop the majority of the violence. It's just going to be transferred to something else. And, coming from someone whose brother hung himself, you're not going to ban rope.
Right.
You're not, I have a friend who killed himself by sitting in a garage and letting his car run. I don't see people up in arms about CO2. Well, I don't mean to.
No.
But you don't hear about that because it's not the sexy time to bring up an issue. And the really heartbreaking thing about this is this week, this is the flavor. A week from now, Jimmy Kimmel's not going to give another care in the world about this publicly until the next mass shooting. And unfortunately, mass shootings, when you talked about the percentages and the home invasion, mass shootings are down there. It goes suicide, gang violence, domestic violence. Those are the big three. And it's suicide, gang violence, domestic violence, and everything else below the table. So, I brought up Australia because of the fact that I'm seeing a lot in the news that people are talking about.
Yeah, Ben Shapiro rips that argument apart. So that would be a video for you to watch if you want to hear about Australia comparison. Kimmel said that the store owner who sold him the gun said that he passed the background check, while others on the left are calling for background checks. That's one of the arguments, is that this is exactly why we need background checks. Well, there are background checks.
Right.
This guy passed the background check. The lie of how easy it is to buy a gun has been debunked so many times in regards to store and gun show purchases through undercover investigations that it would actually be laughable if these idiots keep on bringing it up if it wasn't so serious that people actually believe them. They want to push laws for background checks.
Right.
They're there, and they're used. It doesn't make any sense. Kimmel tried to fit in so many liberal talking points. It was almost like he was reading from a bullet point list pushed by the DNC. And actually, there's reports that Chuck Schumer did help him in this monologue, writing this monologue, which would figure. Among these viewpoints within a short period of time, and I'm actually going to put together a little YouTube video on this to make fun of it, but he immediately just boom, 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 boom. Compared Muslim attacks to white person attacks, tapping of phones, travel bans, building walls, and when an American kills other Americans, there's nothing we can do about that because Second Amendment, I guess, is exactly what he said. It's funny because all the BS that streams out of this guy's mouth that is causing anger in his viewers that could lead to violence against Second Amendment supporters, at no point will you hear me say, well, Jimmy's monologue is dangerous because it's encouraging violence towards the right, so we should cut back on his First Amendment rights of saying these types of things. Right?
Well, I mean, yeah.
He also said, I guess our founding fathers wanted us to have AK-47s is the argument. Yeah, kind of. Actually, it kind of is. Because others have chimed in saying that the Constitution was written in a time when the Founding Fathers could have never realized anything beyond a musket. But that's not true. Stephen Crowder also debunked this in one of his videos, showing that many guns at the time around the Founding Fathers had multiple barrels for rapid fire, as well as Gatling guns operated by a crank wheel, or a crank wheel, and even letters that showed that the government said it was okay for the public and private people to install cannons on their ships to defend their marine property. So this is another debunking that is ignored by people like Kimmel.
Yep.
These types of, it wasn't muskets, just muskets at the time. They were playing around. There's a gun I think I saw. It was a row of two, and it was either 3 deep or 4 deep, like 6 barrels or 8.
It's 1, 2, 3, 4.
So it was 8.
Yeah.
8 barrel pistol.
Yeah.
So, I mean, their argument is completely invalid. These types of things have been debunked multiple times.
Yeah.
Beyond that, the idea behind the Second Amendment was to protect the populace from a tyrannical government. So, like for like weapons in reality. The problem isn't the type of weapon that would be available under that kind of situation, but the deterioration of morality in society due to many things that have transpired from the moral decaying of ideas from the left, in my mind. If you want to be completely honest about things, no reasonable person could actually say that Christianity is the cause of mass crimes and killings like that of radical Islam when comparing religion. As a matter of fact, besides a few social issues, most would actually say that the Bible actually encourages loving attitudes for your brothers and sisters in your community. Yet, it was the left that made it impossible for a Bible to cross school door jams like salt to keep demons out. Another supernatural reference.
I love it. I love the supernatural reference, I should say. Let me clarify that. Comes back on Thursday.
Yeah. So Kimmel said that in February, President Trump signed a bill into law that allowed those with severe mental illness to be able to buy guns. So you know that?
He signed a law to allow people who are severely
mentally ill to buy guns.
Okay.
This was actually a reversal of an Obama-era policy that declared old people mentally incapable of doing things like managing their pensions, and even the ACLU apparently came out against the Obama administration's ruling. So this is completely false, and Kimmel knew that when he stated it. So Kimmel...
Did you just call all old people
yes.
mentally ill?
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
Good job, Kimmel.
Good luck with that.
Kimmel also says at least one simple solution would be to ban gun purchases from those on the no-fly list. This list that seemingly has people added to it for very little, if not any reason at all. Even did you know Senator Ted Kennedy was on that list?
No.
It took him over 6 months to get off of it as a senator.
Okay, why was he on it? Do you know?
He doesn't know. And you know why he doesn't know and why it took so long to get off? Because in order for you to have a ruling put on you to be put onto the no-fly list, and in order for you to get off, you have to go through a secretive court that no one even knows about.
That he doesn't? You as the person being put on the list doesn't know about?
Mm-hmm. So it's almost damn near impossible to fight something in a court system that you don't even know where it exists or how to do it.
Yeah.
So Ted Kennedy ended up on that, and as a senator, it took him 6 months to get off of it.
That's scary. What's it going to do for the little guy?
It's over for you.
Yeah, if don't fly YouTube Air.
Yeah. The following night, Kimmel addressed those who criticized him by saying, "But I do want to say something to these nuts who spent much of the day today on television and online attacking those of us who think we need to do something about the fact that 59 innocent people were killed. They say it's inappropriate to be talking about it because it's too soon. Well, maybe it's too soon for you because deep down inside, you know you bear some responsibility for the fact that almost anyone can get almost any weapon they want, and you want to now cover yourself until the storm of outrage passes and you can go back to your dirty business as usual. I'll let you respond to that one.
All right. So, again, I made this comment a few minutes ago. You're not going to hear anything about this in 2 weeks from Jimmy Kimmel.
I don't know about that, but go ahead.
I do, because it's not going to be the flavor of the month. Something else is going to happen. Life moves on. Holding me responsible for this act of terrorism, okay, I'll be held responsible, I guess, if, Jimmy Kimmel, who's a noted alcoholic, or a former drinker. Well, he was a former drinker. He was on the Man Show for years, so clearly a misogynist. He should take responsibility for all the domestic violence in the world, because that's just where it starts.
Anyone who supports being pro-choice should take responsibility for
the murders
of murder. The murdering of 55 million people since Roe v. Wade.
Sorry, it's not murder. It's they're not people until they have a conscious being that they intend to. I'm sorry, I can't even.
What was it?
It had something to do with
you don't have a morality.
A morality yet.
Because your morality is determined by your parents giving you the option to live and have that morality.
Yes, and even James Franco agrees. That's nuts.
No, yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
I saw on Facebook someone who I really respect. I really like. I've loved this kid since high school. When I met him, he posted something about, anyone who wants to purchase a firearm. Now, he used the word assault rifle, which, again, you said something about clip from a Michael Moore quote, and I instantly said magazine.
Yep.
Those little semantic things bother the hell out of me.
Assault is a verb.
Well, there's no such thing as an assault rifle.
Yeah, that's not what AR stands for.
Yeah. But, okay. Off topic, he goes, he basically says something along the lines of, the people who want to buy these assault rifles should be forced to, if a woman is forced to look at photos of abortions, I don't know, I've never been in this situation, but he basically said something along the lines of, women who want to have an abortion are forced to look at photos of aborted fetus. I don't know if that's true or not, but this was part of his post. Mm-hmm. He basically goes on to say anyone who wants to buy an assault rifle should be forced to look at the victims of mass shootings.
Mm-hmm. There's fallacy all over that.
Well, I responded, and I basically just said, hey, look, this is, if I see that, my initial reaction, and the reason that I own most of the firearms I own,
is to stop the guys from doing that.
Are to protect myself.
Yeah.
So if I'm in a situation where that happens, I honestly, for all the courses I've taken and for all the training and stuff that I do, I don't know how I'm going to react. Mm-hmm. No one does.
Yeah, you don't until you're in the situation. Unless you're trained for it, military-wise.
Yeah, and I'm not in the military, I don't know how I'm going to react. But I'd rather have the option of fighting fire with fire than, not. Mm-hmm. And it was just kind of surprising to me that he put it out there like that.
Well, let me break it down a little bit further for you. The reason why there's different reasons for the abortion portion of that, right? Which is, honestly, a lot of the women that are going through that have been misled through education that it's nothing, that's just a blob of cells and whatnot, right?
Okay.
So then they're forced to look at the fact that this is not just a blob of cells, okay?
Sure.
And it could change their mind at that point.
Sure.
There's a difference between that and choosing to end the life of someone and what he's talking about, which is either protecting yourself from becoming the person in that photograph or if you are a person that's getting the assault rifle, that's exactly what you want to do anyway if you're going for that type of crime with that, right? So it's not going to dissuade the person that actually wants it for that.
Yeah.
There's fallacies all over that whole argument.
Was this, so again, not researching this person, these were all legally bought firearms?
Yes.
Okay.
So far, from what we understand.
All right.
But again, this investigation's still ongoing, and all the details aren't out.
Well, no, I again, like I said, I prefer to look at the other, the other stories of it. I don't need someone much smarter than me is going to study the why behind this, and I don't know if they will ever be able to determine the actual why behind this. But that's on their plate.
Yep.
I prefer to look at this tragedy and look at the beauty coming out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
well, let's keep on going because we're almost done, and we're kind of like right on time as it is right now.
Oh, wow.
Now that we've gotten the responses out of the way, let's take a look at the actual facts surrounding gun laws according to the Daily Wire. Number 1, fully automatic weapons are defined as weapons that can fire multiple rounds with only one pull of the trigger. A semi-automatic weapon will fire one round for each pull of the trigger and prepare the gun to fire another round once the trigger is re-pulled.
Right.
Fully automatic weapons are defined as weapons that can fire multiple rounds with only one pull of the trigger. I doubled that up, sorry. You must have a license from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives to manufacture, sell, or own any NFA weapon. NFA forearms are, as defined by the ATF, a shotgun having a barrel or barrels of less than 18 inches in length, a weapon made from a shotgun if such weapon is modified has an overall length of less than 26 inches, or a barrel or barrels of less than 18 inches in length, a rifle having a barrel of or barrels of less than 16 inches of length, a weapon made from a rifle if such weapon is modified has an overall length of less than 26 inches, or a barrel or barrels of less than 16 inches in length, a machine gun, any silencer as defined in Section 921 of Title 18 United States Code, and a destructive device. Okay, so it's a lot of information there.
Right.
But it's pertinent.
Yep.
Regular gun manufacturers and dealers must obtain a federal firearms license to legally make and sell non-NFA firearms. Others wanting to make or sell NFA items must obtain an additional license as well as an FFL, or the Federal Firearms License. It is illegal for any private citizen to own any fully automatic weapons manufactured after May 19th, 1986.
I got the year right.
The ATF's official handbook on NFA laws and regulations states it is to make new replacement parts for pre-1986 machine guns. Pre-1986 machine guns may be sold only by a Class 3 FFL and must be registered with the ATF, which necessitates extensive background checks. They can take as long as a year and require fingerprints and a photo. The owner is then added to a federal gun registry and matches it to the serial number of the licensed NFA item. Under Nevada state law, NFA items are only legal if they have been legally obtained and registered under federal law.
Right.
Okay. So before we go on to some fallacies put out there by the media, you wanted to talk about bump stocks.
So not just bump stocks, but any kind of modification. I am a gun advocate. I believe in gun safety. That's, part and parcel of the whole package. I personally...
It is a package.
Yes, it is. I personally think things like high-capacity magazines, bump stocks, suppressors. Note I didn't say silencers. Hate that word. And then flare guns. And I'll explain that in just a moment. They have no place in normal society today in a perfect world.
Yep.
Let me clarify that by saying I don't think bump stocks should exist. when I first heard about them, what's the point? I mean, you are literally towing a line. And I learned about them about the same times I learned about flare guns. So there are a couple firearms dealers around here. One of them, I will remain nameless, but holds gun shows. Mm-hmm. And I went to a gun show, and it was actually right down the street from the college that I went to. And I go in, and I'm walking around, and I'm talking to the different vendors. And it's not just guns. I know most people think you walk in, and everybody's wearing ballistic vests and camo, and, you know, that's not how it is. It's, you know, I went with a friend of mine, but there were families there. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just a day. It's anybody's there. Yep. You know, so we're going along, and my father at the time had just bought an AR-15, and we had been looking at scopes because he wants to shoot longer distance. Okay, no problem. I'm going to this gun show. If I can pick one up for cheap, you know. What caliber? His is a 5.56. Oh, okay. Yeah. It's yeah. He can fire a 2.23 and a 5.56, but not the 7.7.
But it's not a good idea to fire the 2.23.
No,
it bounces around.
Yeah, he has. I mean, what we buy is 5.56 when we go shooting together, which unfortunately isn't that often anymore. But so I'm there, and I'm looking at the scopes, and I'm panning, and I'm not really. I'm paying attention, but I'm not paying attention to the fact that I'm literally, one vendor is here and the next table is the next vendor, and so on down the line. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just looking, and I'm talking to these people, and I come to the end of this section that is all scopes, and literally the next thing I see is a grenade, like an M1 or an M4. You know, like the pointed, like you'd see in Arnold Schwarzenegger from. And it's just sitting on the table. And I'm, you know, scope, grenade. Yeah. And the guy behind his booth starts laughing, and he goes, "Oh, that's a flare." And I looked at him, and I was like, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, I sell flares." Okay. I go, "What do you mean flares?" He goes, "Well, that's a flare." And then he shows me his AR-15 that he has a flare gun attachment. Okay. It's a grenade launcher. Okay. But he's not allowed to call it a grenade launcher. So he has a grenade launcher. So now I'm pissed because anything that aggressive in civilian hands, there's no need. There's no need. So he goes on and he tells me about his experience with his flares, mm-hmm. and he can make incendiary flares, and he can make, because of his license, explosive flares, and he keeps referring back to the flare gun, and that's why I put that in quotes. Mm-hmm. For all intent and purpose, I'm looking at a guy with a grenade launcher. Mm-hmm. And I mean,
did he show you video of it going off?
No. I asked, and he said, I'm not allowed to show videos. He's like, we can show you how to mount it, but we can't mount it for you.
Oh my gosh, that sounds even okay. So here, before you go on, okay, I won't cut you off from telling the story. The statement, what you said in your statement, always gets me when the left says it, which is there's no need for it. Well, there's no need for a lot of things, but we can do it.
Sure.
Okay. My argument on gun ownership is some things are over the top. I personally think it's hard to look at a bump stock in action after this weekend. Right? Like, I actually looked it up for the first time. I had never known what one was before this weekend. Yeah. Okay. And I looked it up, and I'm watching a guy fire this thing, and I'm like, holy crap, that is now an automatic weapon.
It's an automatic weapon.
Yeah. And your shoulder apparently is going to hurt after that because of what happens with the recoil. But listen, it has become an emotional response from me because of a situation. Sure. And I don't want to fall into that, because you shouldn't be making decisions based on emotions, right? It should be all common sense. Common sense does say why. But another part of me is saying, I would love to try firing one of those things.
But you can go and you can fire one under the supervision of the right people.
Yes, and so that's the other thing that I'm talking about here is, like, there's a big difference between society and where things happen and whatnot. Right now, you are sitting out in my bunker, where I make a lot of money doing this.
Yes.
And and outside, you can't see my neighbors.
Right.
Okay, besides the horses, goats, and all the other crap.
Yep.
But I could set up some hay bales out there and just start firing away with one of those types of things. And to be honest with you, I'd kind of like to get my hands on a flare gun and shoot some crap with that too, out in the middle of nowhere. But when you're talking about a city environment and stuff like that, yeah, you're getting dicey. Now, before you go on with your story, what you just left off with saying is hella dangerous. Okay? Yeah. If you can't show me a video of how these things work,
right,
and you kind of just show me how to set these things up and you don't really have responsibility after that, well, what if it's set up wrong and goes off in the hands of the individual trying to shoot it? Because you don't even know how the hell it's supposed to react.
You can't buy these flares, so you have to make your own.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
my gosh.
He gives you a cookbook, is what he called it. It took everything in my head just to not pull him over the table and start beating him senseless. But he really, because I looked at it, and even then I kind of was like, man, that'd be fun. And there are places, just coincidentally, it's called The Gun Shop, and it is in Las Vegas, Nevada, where you can go and it's a firing line, and you go with, I think, former military instructors, and they take you out, and you can spend $500, you can spend $10,000, and you can fire whatever you want because it's legal.
Is it out in the desert?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that's fine. But I'm standing in the middle of Reading, Pennsylvania, and this guy's trying to sell me a flare gun. And I'm not stupid. It's a grenade launcher. I've seen Commando. I've seen Terminator 2. I know what they do. They split the T-1000 in half.
And you also see what silencers do.
Yeah. Oh, God. But, suppressors are a different story, to a point. The bump stocks, the flare guns, I can't imagine why you would need, or why anyone, not you, why anyone would need them. I understand the want.
The need isn't there for anything.
I would personally love to pull my own John Rambo with the belt, kind of feeding a fully automatic rifle. That'd be fun. Just shooting at a target. I don't need to do it, but I'd like to.
But so that left would feed, or that argument would feed right into the left's argument of, well, no one needs. I mean, if you really want to make the argument, the only thing you need a gun for is maybe hunting, and that's about it.
Well, my argument to that would be that in 1986, in May of 1986, the government finally made it illegal to have an automatic weapon. That means any automatic weapon that is out there pre-1986, which there are, I believe there's something like 500,000 out there is the article that I was reading. Some of them are registered. Some of them aren't. Believe it or not all guns that criminals use are legal.
You're feeding right into my next topic then.
Wonderful.
Well, I'm sorry. Let me point out one more thing in regards to guns and facts about guns. funny enough, or not funny enough in reality, when you actually have media consumers believing the nonsense, CBS made up a bogus term to describe the ammunition that was used by the Las Vegas shooter during the rampage, calling the ammunition he used automatic rounds. Yeah, I thought that would happen. CBS tweeted a link to their report saying, while the guns Stephen Paddock used in Las Vegas fired automatic rounds, they were perfectly legal under ATF rules. This was actually doubling down on the report itself, which actually said, yet while the guns that Stephen Paddock used to shoot more than 500 people in Las Vegas fired automatic rounds, they were perfectly legal according to rules established by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives.
I'd be curious to know what they define an automatic round as. I've never seen a round just load itself and fire, so I know that it's not automatically going to shoot. Maybe that's what they mean when it's loaded into the clip, and then I don't know that.
So let's get into some interesting statistics when you're comparing the Las Vegas shooting to something like Chicago.
Southside. Nice.
Not the pizza. So the Daily Wire also pointed out some facts in regards to Chicago in comparison to this massacre. There were 84 murders in Chicago just in June, according to DNAinfo.com, which keeps a running tally. There were 76 murders in July and 50 in August. And there were 59 murders in Chicago last month. So far in Chicago, where Rahm Emanuel, former chief of staff for Barack Obama, is mayor, there have been 519 murders this year, and there's still a quarter of the year to go. But the numbers get crazy when totaling gun violence victims. In 2015, 2,988 people were victims of gun violence, according to the records kept by the Chicago Tribune.
Yep.
The problem with bringing up these facts on the left is that it conflicts with their argument to ban guns. Chicago is already a gun-free zone by law. Banning the guns obviously does nothing and does not guard against criminals breaking the law.
Wait.
I know. Take your time.
It's a gun-free zone.
Mm-hmm.
So that means one of two things, right? It either means there are no guns in it,
mm-hmm.
or if I see a gun, it's mine and I don't have to pay for it, right? Gun free cat.
Oh, gotcha.
Bad play. Sorry.
It's late for both of us.
Yeah. The gun free zone, when you said Chicago and I said Southside, that's just because I know these stats.
Mm-hmm.
I'm well aware of them because this is what
we have to know.
Well, the left wants to argue that taking the guns out of our hands is a good idea. Well, taking the guns out of our hand is going to not do anything. I'm a law-abiding citizen.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny you say the left because technically you're not on the right either.
No, I am dead center. Let me say this: I lean right.
Okay.
On a lot of things. I consider myself...
You're very socially liberal, though.
I consider myself fiscally conservative and socially liberal.
Which is very libertarian, basically.
Yeah. But, there are things that I take stands on. There are things that I don't give two poops about.
As one of my favorite politicians said, Austin Peterson, who should have been the libertarian candidate for president over Gary Johnson.
You told me to look him up.
Yeah, he said at one point in time, I fully support the right of a lesbian couple to defend their marijuana fields with fully automatic weapons.
Why not?
Yeah. That's his idea of freedom right there for you.
I mean, that's as small a government as you can get.
Yeah, no
I
kidding.
respect it.
So listen. Before we leave this topic, our hearts go out to anyone and everyone affected by this situation. It was horrible. You have to understand that advocating for gun rights is not a malicious intent towards those victims.
Right.
As a matter of fact, in a lot of events that happen all the time,
mm-hmm.
there's a potential for the bad guys to do a mass shooting when they're stopped by someone else that's good with a firearm. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
So, when you take the guns out of the hands of law-abiding citizens, and you can't find the ones that are illegally owned by criminals, you leave a defenseless society at the will of these bad people.
Right.
And you leave it up to cops, which in situations like we're in right now, we're out in the middle of the country. And guess what? It takes about 25 minutes for a cop to get out here for any situation. Okay? You don't have that kind of amount of time.
Right.
The one woman I just listened to that called into the radio station said that just last week, someone tried breaking into her house at 4 o'clock in the morning. She was in her bedroom. The dog started barking. And by the time she got out of bed and looked, there was a guy climbing through the window. Within 10 seconds, she had her pistol, and he was already in the house. Okay.
I had it in 5.
Well, she pointed at him, told him to get the hell out. She had more self-control than I would have, because you don't pick up a gun unless you're ready to shoot at someone from my training class I just took.
You don't aim it at someone unless you're ready to do harm, yeah.
He got out of there. She had recognized him as someone in the neighborhood. So he was immediately picked up by cops. But the fact of the matter is, 10 seconds for someone to get into your house and do some serious harm to you, 25 minutes sometimes for cops, state cops or anything else to get out to you.
Yeah.
Actually, there's multiple quotes out there from cops saying that they want a well-armed society because they can't be there all the time.
Right.
There's also statistics out there that show that high gun ownership levels in certain towns shows a reduced amount of crime.
I mean, it'll be hard for any foreign military to ever invade us because, yes, we have. I saw Red Dawn.
No. That's
I'm kidding.
No. What I'm saying is Russia had a plan to infiltrate the United States, but they said that they would never go through Texas over the Mexican border because they know the Texans would kick their ass.
They would come over. They would march down the street, and then. The little school teacher that looks unassuming is going to pull out a 45 and start wrecking shop. And that's the thing. We are somewhat self-policed. Yeah. I've had these conversations with people, and I say that my family owns pistols for self-defense. We own shotguns for home defense and hunting. We own rifles for hunting. We also own some rifles for protecting ourselves from terrorists, both foreign and domestic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
and you might have a flare gun or two.
I know I don't have flare guns. Those things are stupid.
But can I just say one tip? I was just in a concealed carry class.
Yeah.
By Mo, and I will actually try to put her channel up on YouTube, on the YouTube video too, in case anyone's interested in looking into her. But one of the things that she said as a good piece of advice is that you should was it 40 caliber?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that you should get a pistol that's 40 caliber.
I have a 40.
And she said that because when these types of situations happen, or there's a mass panic and a run on gun supplies, 22s, 9mm, 45s go.
Yeah.
Off the shelves immediately. 40s are always there.
So, difference of opinion, just my personal experience. After the Newtown shooting, I do own a few different firearms. The one that I was most easily able to find ammunition for was actually my carry piece, which is a 380. Mm-hmm. It's a little smaller than a 9.
Yeah.
But with the technology and the bullets, and I've done a couple things where, we've gone out to firing ranges with gallons of frozen water, and we've actually, ice to the layman. It's whatever. It's 1:30 in the morning. We shoot the frozen water with the 9mm, see what it does.
Yeah.
And then we shot the frozen water with the 380.
Yeah.
Now, I carry hollow point.
Yeah.
So, and it mushrooms.
Yep.
It's not just going to hit and stay. It's going to let you know it's there. Is it going to do the exact same thing as a 9? No. but it'll do the job.
Yeah.
The technology in a lot of bullets now, as compared to 20 years ago, just like almost everything, is that much better. But they say stopping power over dropping power, and dropping power starts when you get to the 40. That doesn't just mean you're gonna a guy like me is gonna walk in and probably take a couple 22s or a couple 380s, maybe even a few 9s, and keep coming.
Yep.
You hit me with a 40, I'm gonna hit the ground. Stopping power versus dropping power. 40. I mean, I don't know what you guys have. I have my Glock. It's a Glock 22. It's full size 40 caliber, and it is my favorite, hands down my favorite pistol.
Glock 40?
Yeah. Well, it's a Glock 22 is the model.
Okay. So, I mean 40 caliber Glock.
40 caliber.
Okay,
yeah.
sorry.
But yeah, I mean, my brother has the 19, which is a 9mm. In the Glock, so it's similar style. He has, I have a Gen 4. He has a Gen 3. That's just the generation model. Not a lot of difference in the styling of them, and that's the thing I love about a Glock is if you have the full size, it's the same gun, just a different caliber. If you have the concealed carry size, it's the same gun, different caliber, and it's the same gun. Some people like SIGs, find a gun that works best for you. Do your research.
Oh, I would talk to someone at a shop, especially if you can find a shop with a firing range.
Yeah, there's a few.
There's a new local one.
Yeah, well, it
used to be.
Yeah, it used to be the
Fireline.
What was it called before? It was the
starting line or something. No, that's
firing line.
Firing line.
Yeah.
Yeah, just firing line. Now it's Relic Hunter firing.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Well, I know the owner, so.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I actually accidentally sent my mother-in-law there last weekend or 2 weekends ago because I read online that they were doing their grand opening
last weekend,
and I sent them 2 weekends ago. I sent them.
Oh, so before it opened.
So yeah, I've had very bad luck with trying to get my mother-in-law and my father-in-law Jeff to fire just out to a range. It started with Higher Ground Tactical place, kind of south of McCungie.
Yeah.
Where that gentleman ended up going
in New York. That's right.
I brought my mother-in-law to that place a week before that incident, and she bought my father-in-law Jeff a birthday present of a 6-month membership. She was so excited. He was excited. I go home. I feel really good about myself, and then I go
It shut down, right?
Oh yeah.
It's done.
Yeah. And that sucks because that was a place that I used to like going to. But yeah, I mean,
Gerard, who owns Relic Hunter, has some awesome guns there.
Oh, I'm sure.
It is. I've never seen a gun shop like it. Like it's like a candy shop, really, for gun owners and stuff. It's awesome what you see and what you find there.
I think it's important to before you purchase, go and shoot, but find someone who is, if you don't have access to an instructor, find someone who is willing to teach you. From the ground up. Don't just jump in. It's not something you want to jump into head first.
No.
But yeah, I mean.
Yeah. Okay. We're kind of running out of time here, but I just wanted to say again, our hearts go out, our prayers go out to all those affected by the incident. Also, look, the details aren't even out yet. The investigation is still ongoing as of this point. So it'll be interesting to see if there was any motive, if there was what all fed into all this stuff. I think that's important just as closure for people that
a lot of people
need it.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
Is it necessary? No, because there's people that are dead and wounded. It doesn't matter what the motive was. It happened. It's done with.
Right.
But there is some closure to that. You know what I mean? So moving off of a bad topic, we'll end the night on kind of coming up again a little bit.
Cool.
Comic-Con's going on right now.
I know.
And apparently we're getting a new trailer for Justice League on Sunday.
Cool.
And a new Star Wars trailer on Monday.
Thank God, because the first one
has you way too hyped up for it.
So the first time I watched it, I wasn't impressed. And so I literally went until about 2 weeks ago without seeing it a second time. Because I was just kind of like, meh.
No, really?
And then I went back and I was like, look, it's coming out in December. It's Star Wars, so I have to. I mean, it's not a question. I take the day off from work to go.
Mm-hmm.
I see it in the morning, and if anybody out there decides to put anything on Facebook or contact me, because it happened to me last time, if somebody does that again, I'm going to slap your taste right out of your mouth. That's all I'm going to say. You know who you are. If you're watching this,
hey, since my wife doesn't watch a podcast, I can actually take off that morning from work and go with you.
I'll let you
we'll
know.
do the movie review.
Yeah, we. So I normally go with Jimmy. Peyton will come. My buddy Scotty Long goes. We have a group that goes. But we go to the New Line or the. I almost said New Line Cinemas. The former Tillman 8.
Yeah.
Because their
awesome.
seats recline.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, did you see the Kingsman movie?
No.
Either have I.
No.
Yet.
So Colleen really wants to see it, so I have to see it with her.
Yeah.
Blade Runner.
I'll be honest with you. This is going to hurt you. I tried watching the original Blade Runner a couple months ago. I couldn't get through it. It hurt because I was so excited to watch it. I was like, I got to see what this is all about because of all the old. That was an '80s movie, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the '80s was filled with awesome action movies, right?
Well, this wasn't an action movie. This was a sci-fi movie.
Yeah, but
it had some action.
Yeah,
but it was not. It was not The Running Man.
Right. And I just had. Maybe I'll try again. I have to try again.
So, I mean, I was little when I saw it the first time. But,
it was hard to make sense of what was going on.
I really enjoyed it when I was little. I haven't seen it in 10 plus years. I saw one trailer for it, and kind of like what I do with the Marvel movies now, I stop watching trailers because I don't want to know. I don't. I want to go in because I've read so many comic books that, like, for Thor, I know that they're doing Thor, they're doing the Ragnarok, but they're also doing Planet Hulk, and I know how they both end, so I don't want to see anything else. Like, I just don't. I don't want to know.
Well, they obviously have to both end up on Earth. Well,
do they?
Oh, no, they don't, because you know what happens. Look, there was some leaked footage of, like, one of the last Comic-Cons on how Thor ends up with a new group of people in space.
Yeah.
And you did see that?
So no, someone who ruined the Han Solo thing for me. Yeah.
My gosh.
Yeah. Like, literally, like, I was seeing it the morning of, so the day before, he goes, we were having a discussion, and he goes, oh, yeah? Well, Kylo Ren this, and he kills...
Well, he just said it before.
And everybody in the office looked at him, looked at me, looked back at him, and a mutual friend of ours got in front of me.
I've been in that situation where someone had to get in between us.
Just said, run. And he was like, ha ha ha. And I was like, here I work. You'll get fired. Oh, God. I want to kill him.
I've been on your receiving end.
Yeah. You were fine.
No. I'll be honest. I was an idiot on how I responded to the situation, but you were also drunk, and those two things do not combine very well.
Well, alcoholics and alcohol and disagreements always do good.
We'll end it on a funny story. You had a party at your house one time.
Yes.
And we were younger. We were all drinking very heavily.
A little bit.
And you and I decided to go get something to eat at a local gas station.
Are you talking about the 7-Eleven incident?
The big guy,
the chicken
hot
taquitos
dogs.
or something?
No, hot dogs. They were huge jumbo hot dogs. So we're in line, and there's a guy who I literally come up to his chest, maybe.
Yeah.
Bigger than. Not only that tall, but bigger than you, muscle wise.
He was a refrigerator of a man.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I remember.
I could barely stand.
Yeah.
But I was eyeing up those jumbo hot dogs like you wouldn't believe.
Not only were you eyeing them up, you were talking about
I was talking about it. There were 2 on the roller.
Yeah.
And I said,
really funny.
Oh, those hot dogs look really good. And he goes, yeah, they do. And I said, okay. I said to you, I'm going to get one of those hot dogs. I'm hungry. So the guy goes, I'll take one of those hot dogs. And I laughed at him. I said, it's a good thing you only said one because you know I'm eyeing that up. He goes, make it 2.
Make it 2?
You were holding me back. I was like, what? And I'm going at this guy, and he's just laughing. You're holding me back. Oh, my gosh.
That was, I saw, I've never seen you flip a switch over hot dogs. That's awesome.
It was an American snack.
It's an American snack. And when you've got 2 14, 30 some beers in you, who knows? And we walked, by the way, from my house down to a 7-Eleven. It's like it was like half a block.
Okay, I was going to say, I didn't think it was that far.
No, it's, we would come down 5th Street and then turn on to Susquehanna, which is really not the place we should have been walking around at 3 o'clock in the morning for hot dogs. And it's basically right there.
That's your opinion.
Only you and that big guy had that opinion that night.
All right, well, listen, I appreciate you coming out.
Always.
It's awesome.
Always.
I have a good time with you as well as other ones on the podcast. That's why I keep on inviting you back out. I appreciate everyone tuning in tonight and those that follow in on the YouTube version. Also, those that listen on KLRN Internet Radio. I forgot to mention that at the beginning. I always forget to mention that, but I always seem to remember it right at the end.
Yeah.
So this podcast is re-aired on Sundays from 3 to 6 p.m. on KLRN Internet Radio. I encourage you to check that out and also check out all the other shows that they have on that network as well, because it's a lot of political shows, but there's also some cool science shows and stuff like that too. So check it out on there. Also, KLRN Internet Radio has been gracious enough to put my podcast onto iTunes as well, which Colin here listens to at work. So you can subscribe to that as well. You can always find me on Facebook, The Generation Y Conservative. Find me on YouTube, The Generation Y Conservative. And you can interact with me on Twitter, at Gen Y Conservative without the E on the end. Do you want to say anything before we go?
You can find me at my basement, and you called me Colin.
Did I?
Yeah, I'm not used to that.
Oh, sorry.
That's a new one.
Did I say that?
Yeah, you called me Colin.
I think it's because I try to be proper on the podcast.
I appreciate that.
But you're goody. You're always goody to me. But anyway, have a great night, and God bless America.